Chapter 1917. No other meaning. Xinyan was a quiet person, and she'd never fallen for a man before. She even had a natural repulsion towards men, and the reason for that was her two uncles being too evil. They'd never liked her since she was a child, and that had given her a bad impression of other men. But she'd never felt that way since she'd met Lin Yi. Perhaps it was because of the chance encounter on the train, and she'd felt pity for him when she saw him getting tricked. She'd been surprised to find out that it wasn't Lin Yi who'd been tricked, but the scammers. She'd been curious about what Lin Yi was like. The second time they'd met was in the business district of Songshan. She'd gotten into some trouble, and Lin Yi had taken care of it easily. From that moment on, Xinyan felt that Lin Yi was a good friend. But the time they'd truly opened their hearts to each other was that time on the plane, when she'd been feeling down. She'd told him a lot about her life and worries, and from then on, they'd become closer than just normal friends. They could be considered good friends now. Step by step, Xinyan realized that Lin Yi was a good person, and a good one at that. But thinking about it, Lin Yi might be a good person in her eyes, but in the eyes of the Xiao family, Lin Yi was a super bully. The two climbed for about a kilometer, and Xinyan was starting to run out of stamina. It had been easier at the start, but now it was getting more and more difficult. There were branches, leaves, and mud everywhere, and it slowed them down quite a bit. Of course, if it weren't for Xinyan, Lin Yi would have been able to find Xiao Qi and come back with ease. This sort of jungle route was a piece of cake for Lin Yi, after all. Back in the primeval forest in Africa, a place full of wild beasts, snakes, swamps, poisonous plants, and bugs, Lin Yi was still able to run like he was flying. "Let's rest if you're tired," Lin Yi said after finding a relatively clean spot. "Ah, it's okay, I can still hold on." Xinyan didn't want to rest so soon. How long would they be able to find Xiao Qi if they kept resting? "It's okay. The scenery here is beautiful. Just take it as a view," Lin Yi said with a smile. "Look at the maple leaves all over the mountains." How beautiful. As far as Lin Yi was concerned, if he couldn't find it in the end, he'd just run over and take the flag back, and that would count as completing the mission. As for the top three, Lin Yi didn't really care about them. Boss Bai had already guaranteed that he'd be able to graduate smoothly, so why would he need credits? Boss Bai was the boss in the Faculty of Medicine. With his promise, even the principal would not say anything. "Yeah, it's really beautiful." Xinyan sat down as well after hearing Lin Yi's words. She couldn't help but think of a poem as she looked at the red leaves. Far away on the cold mountain, there is a house in the depths of the clouds. Stop to love the maple forest at night, the frost leaves are redder than flowers in February. It was just a random poem, but Xinyan's face reddened when she said it out loud. The third line of the poem, "Stop and sit in love with the maple forest," had been changed by some bored people to "Stop and sit in love with the maple forest" to describe car vibrations. Xinyan had just been on campus 2 days ago. Xinyan had read it on campus 2 days ago. I'm just saying, I don't mean anything by it," Xinyan added. Lin Yi looked at Xinyan, confused. "What's wrong? What do you mean by nothing by it?" Xinyan didn't know whether to laugh or cry as she looked at Lin Yi's face. Was she overthinking things? Lin Yi hadn't thought of all this. But she couldn't just explain it to him. Lin Yi hadn't thought of all this, and it wouldn't be good if she explained it like that. "It's nothing." "Nothing?" Lin Yi frowned as he thought back to what Xinyan had said. "You said stop." Lin Yi had been on campus when he was looking into the school's affairs. He'd seen someone tampering with the poem on QQ, but Xinyan was referring to this. "No, I didn't." "Why are your thoughts so impure?" Xinyan's face reddened. Wasn't she just making him even more curious after saying that she didn't have anything to do with it? It would have been better if she hadn't reminded him, but he remembered now. Ah. Lin Yi shrugged helplessly. You're the one who said it first. All right, I'm done resting. Let's keep going. Xinyan said, changing the topic. With that, she stood up and started walking. Lin Yi smiled faintly. Xinyan was quite an interesting character. She didn't look like she didn't belong to the world, but she was a little cold in front of people she wasn't familiar with. Once they got to know each other, her personality would become more cheerful. She was similar to the Miss in this regard, but not exactly the same. The Miss was cold on the outside but warm on the inside, but she wouldn't be as quiet as Xinyan. They walked for a while, and it was almost noon. Lin Yi took out a pack of biscuits from his bag. Hungry? Do you want to eat something first? I'm not that hungry yet. Maybe we can wait a bit longer. Xinyan was afraid that it wouldn't be enough. She'd looked at other people's GPSs before, and none of them had a GPS as far as the one she was holding. This was practically the end of the mountain, and they'd have to climb over the other side of the mountain to find the flag. Xinyan didn't know why she was so unlucky to get a GPS like this. She didn't want to waste food. Perhaps she and Lin Yi would be the last group to complete the mission. In fact, Yutian gave her this GPS on purpose. From his point of view, it was safer to give the furthest coordinate to Lin Yi. With Lin Yi's skills, it was a piece of cake for him to get the red flag. It's fine, the two of us got a bag of supplies too, and it's enough for 3 people. Lin Yi smiled as he tossed a bag of biscuits to Xinyan. Then, let's eat a little. Xinyan was hungry when she saw the food. If Lin Yi didn't take it out, she might be able to hold on for a bit longer. The two found a clean place and sat down. They ate some biscuits and drank some water before continuing their journey. After eating, Xinyan recovered a lot of her strength. However, the distance to the destination was too far. They walked for another 4 hours, and they were only halfway there. Lin Yi sighed when he saw that Xinyan was starting to run out of stamina. We're at least 20 kilometers away from our destination in a straight line. We need to get there before nightfall, or we won't be able to make it back in time for the training mission tomorrow. Target =_blank. Chapter 19:18. Sigh, it's all my fault, I got a GPS that's so far away. I've seen other people's GPS, some of them are very close, but the total distance is less than 20 kilometers. Xinyan smiled bitterly. Her one-way trip was equivalent to someone else's round trip. Lin Yi, naturally, knew that Yutian did it on purpose. Only he had the ability to carry someone this far, so he left the most difficult part to him. Of course, there was another GPS that was just as difficult as Lin Yi's. It was in the opposite direction of Lin Yi, at the end of the mountain range. They had to cross the mountain as well. But Yutian threw the GPS to Tiger Right and the other two. It was a piece of cake for these 3 practitioners to get there. Lin Yi was an Earth class, but even with Xinyan, he might not be as fast as the 3 of them. Ha! It'll be fine with me here. If worse comes to worst, I'll carry you, Lin Yi smiled nonchalantly. I'll hold on a little longer. Xinyan hesitated and gritted her teeth. Although it would be easy for Lin Yi to carry her, Xinyan was shy and didn't want to risk it. Also, she was afraid that Lin Yi would be too tired. Lin Yi nodded, but after seeing how tired Xinyan was, he reached out his hand to her. Xinyan hesitated, but still held Lin Yi's hand. This was the first time a guy held her hand, but it wasn't because they were in love, but because they were teammates helping each other. Xinyan knew that Lin Yi wouldn't have any ulterior motives. He just wanted to help her, that's all. But, although Xinyan said that in her heart, her hands were still a little stiff. Her palms were sweaty from holding Lin Yi's hand not long ago. Lin Yi smiled, feeling Xin Yan's nervousness. "We're teammates now." Xin Yan paused for a second but smiled and nodded. "Yeah, we're comrades in arms." The knot in Wang Xinyan's heart was unraveled, and her grip on Lin Yi's hand tightened. She didn't feel nervous anymore, but a comfortable sense of security replaced it. It was as if she had nothing to fear as long as she held on to his hand, and all difficulties were nothing more than floating clouds. Lin Yi stumbled along the way for another 10 kilometers before the sky darkened. Dark came early in late autumn, and it was already 6 in the evening. Lin Yi didn't have any obstacles in his way, but Xin Yan was a girl, and it was obvious that she was a little afraid. When carrying out a mission in the primeval forest, Lin Yi would usually choose to act at night. There was a saying that went, "The night is dark and the wind is strong, and the night is the night to kill. Let me carry you." Lin Yi looked at the coordinates on the GPS. The two of them had already passed the peak, and were now going down the mountain towards their destination. The old saying was right. It was easy to go up the mountain, but difficult to go down the mountain. It was hard to go up the mountain, but it was less dangerous. It was easy to go down the mountain, but it was easy to lose your footing. Of course, this was no problem for an Earth-class practitioner like Lin Yi. He wouldn't die even if he slid down the mountain. But it wasn't the same for Xin Yan. Going down the mountain was harder than going up, especially since the sky was already dark. She didn't dare to walk too fast. That was why Lin Yi suggested carrying Xin Yan on his back. Xin Yan was hesitating. They were less than 10 kilometers away from their destination, but it was all the way down the mountain. If she kept walking like this, it would be late at night. If the two of them rested for the night, they wouldn't be able to wake up at noon the next day. They wouldn't be able to make it back in time. "Come on, my comrade." Lin Yi hung his backpack in front of his chest and squatted down. Xin Yan heard Lin Yi and didn't resist anymore. She wrapped her arms around Lin Yi's neck and laid on top of Lin Yi. But when the softness of her chest pressed against Lin Yi, Xin Yan remembered that she wasn't wearing a bra. Didn't that mean that she was lying on Lin Yi's back? But thinking about it, a normal person's back shouldn't be very sensitive. Lin Yi shouldn't feel anything. She didn't know that Lin Yi wasn't a normal person, but a special one. He was an Earth-class practitioner, and practitioners had the most flexible control over their body parts. That was why when Xin Yan laid on top of Lin Yi reacted. Fortunately, Xin Yan was behind him, and the sky was dark. She couldn't see his reaction at all, otherwise Lin Yi would be embarrassed. Xin Yan thought about how Lin Yi's backpack was hanging in front of him, and she wanted to help Lin Yi carry it, but then she remembered that she was still on Lin Yi's back. Even if she carried the backpack, she'd be putting the weight on Lin Yi's back. What difference would that make? Xin Yan thought that Lin Yi would be walking very slowly with her on his back, but when she looked at the trees in front of her, she realized that not only did Lin Yi not slow down, he was walking even faster than before. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he was walking like he was flying. What surprised Xin Yan the most was that Lin Yi didn't have the feeling that she had. His steps were very steady, and he didn't miss a single step. Could it be that Lin Yi had been accommodating her all this time, and that was why he was walking so slowly? Xin Yan felt even more ashamed at the thought. In fact, even if Lin Yi closed his eyes, he could still walk like he was flying, and he could see more clearly than with his eyes open. Although he felt the softness on his back, Lin Yi's attention quickly shifted to other places. What should he do with Miss and Shu? With their personalities, they might not be in a group with others. They weren't practitioners, and they were girls. Would they be in danger if they went up the mountain? However, phones weren't allowed to be used here, and they were locked in a cabinet in the barracks. Even if Lin Yi wanted to contact Miss, it was impossible. He could only ask Chen Yutian to take care of Mississippi. But thinking about it, with Yushu around, Chen Yutian wouldn't give them complicated tasks. Finally, Lin Yi arrived at his destination. It had to be said that Lin Yi had been moving very fast this way. He'd covered 10 kilometers in less than half an hour, and this was under Lin Yi's deliberate control. He didn't want to scare Xinyan too much. Normally, he'd only run for 10 minutes, but Lin Yi didn't want to scare Xinyan. Xinyan was too tired, and she fell asleep on Lin Yi's shoulder. It was a comfortable and safe feeling, as if she had forgotten all her worries when she laid on Lin Yi's broad shoulder. Although it was only half an hour, Xinyan still slept soundly. Chapter 1919. Lin Yi's sudden stop woke Xinyan up. She didn't know how long she slept for, but when she opened her eyes and saw the flag not far from her, she woke up immediately. "We're here. We're here already." Xinyan couldn't believe it. Lin Yi had been carrying her for so long, and they're already here. "You're awake." Lin Yi knew that Xinyan was asleep, and Lin Yi was the first to notice her waking up. "I'm sorry, I'm too tired and fell asleep," Xinyan said apologetically. "There's nothing to be sorry about." Lin Yi smiled. "That's how it should be. Rest up and we'll continue our journey tomorrow." After putting Xinyan down, Lin Yi took the flag and put it in his bag before setting up the tent. In an SUV at the foot of the mountain, Chen Yutian and a few other warriors were staring at a computer screen. When Yutian saw the GPS in Lin Yi's hand coincide with the flag's coordinates, he knew that they had arrived at their destination. Yutian let out a sigh of relief. Although Lin Yi was slower than Pan Hu and the others, Lin Yi was carrying a girl. However, in the last 10 kilometers, Lin Yi's speed was very fast. Yutian guessed that Lin Yi was carrying Xinyan. "Lin Yi, why don't I help you? You should eat something, too. Carrying me on your back must be tiring, right?" Xinyan said as she watched Lin Yi assembling the tent. "It's fine, you eat first. You've never done this before, and it'll take a lot of time to assemble it according to the blueprint," Lin Yi said as he moved the parts of the tent. Xinyan was startled. Didn't he look at the blueprint? But when she took a closer look, Lin Yi really didn't look at the blueprint. It was folded on the side, and Lin Yi didn't even open it. "You've assembled it before?" Xinyan was surprised. "And these military tents are assembled the same way. I used to do it all the time." Lin Yi sighed. It was as if he had returned to those days of war, camping with his teammates every night, assembling the tents. Pangolin was the most enthusiastic when it came to assembling the tents, and sleeping was his favorite thing to do. Lin Yi's heart sank at the thought of Pangolin. He still hadn't found the culprit who killed Pangolin. Although Lin Yi had destroyed the common house Yu, they were just accomplices, not the mastermind. The mastermind should be the organization called Red Conches. Although Lin Yi had killed 2 important members of Red Conches, it was far from enough. Lin Yi's goal was to destroy the whole family. Only by destroying this organization would he be able to vent his hatred. He thought of Ying Ziyu, wondering how she was doing. According to Faubert, she and Qin Shi both got into Songshan's first school, but Qin Shi reached the minimum requirement to be a free student, and Ying Ziyu barely reached the minimum requirement to be a self-funded student. But with Faubert there, Ying Ziyu didn't have to pay. Pingzhan Industries wasn't in trouble yet, so Faubert still had the absolute right to speak. Even after Hausen took over, they wouldn't pursue something as small as this. They didn't have the time to. This time, Lin Yi planned to go visit Ying Ziyu and see how she was. Lin Yi cared about this girl quite a bit, and the reason was that she was Pangolin's sister. In the past. Xinyan was curious. "You used to assemble these?" "Ah. I used to." Lin Yi smiled bitterly, but for some reason, he didn't hide anything from Xinyan. In the past, my life and yours were two different worlds. Perhaps it was because of Lin Yi's trust in Xinyan, or perhaps Lin Yi didn't need to hide anything with his current strength. Those enemies of his weren't enemies to Lin Yi anymore, and Lin Yi wasn't afraid of their revenge. Lin Yi was a golden class back then, so he was afraid that his old enemies would come looking for him. But now that Lin Yi was an earth class, the enemies he faced were all at least mystic class. There was no point in hiding it anymore. Ah. Xinyan paused. You mean before you came to Songshan? Something like that. That time when I met you on the train was the beginning of my assimilation into this city. Lin Yi nodded. Xinyan didn't ask what Lin Yi did before. Everyone had their secrets, and she didn't want to put Lin Yi in a difficult position. Let's eat something and rest. Ah, okay. Lin Yi put the last part of the tent in place. The tent was now complete. Lin Yi and Xinyan sat in front of the tent, opening a pack of compressed biscuits under the moonlight. Xinyan was hungry, but she didn't eat too much, which surprised Lin Yi. You want to eat more? Xinyan blushed. It's not convenient to go to the bathroom here. I don't want to eat too much. We're deep in the forest, just find a random place. Lin Yi smiled. It's fine, eat more. We still have a long way to go tomorrow. Lin Yi tried to persuade her, but Xinyan still didn't eat too much. She drank quite a bit of mineral water, though. The two of them had brought a lot of water. Perhaps Xinyan was trying to help Lin Yi lighten up, and drinking water could fill up their stomachs. I'm full, let's rest. Xinyan took a deep breath. The air here is so good. Yeah, there's no noise and waste from the city. If we weren't in a rush, this would be a good place for a vacation. Lin Yi said. Yeah, let's rest. Xinyan nodded. She was about to enter the tent when she saw that Lin Yi wasn't moving. Lin Yi, aren't you coming to rest with us? You go, I'll be fine outside. Lin Yi didn't enter the tent. It's fine. Didn't we sleep together back in the barracks? Xinyan said, seeing that Lin Yi wasn't feeling comfortable. It wasn't that there were a lot of people, but now it's just the two of us. Lin Yi was worried that Xinyan would be embarrassed, but Xinyan was being more generous. I trust you. Xinyan lowered her head, not saying anything else. She was actually asking a guy to sleep with her. It would have been inconceivable in the past, but now it was natural. Okay. Lin Yi nodded after a bit of hesitation. Chapter 1920. Wang Xinyan's scent was beneficial to his training, so Lin Yi didn't want to waste this opportunity. He might not get another chance like this when he got back to school. Sleeping together in the barracks with other people was considered a group activity, but now that Lin Yi and Wang Xinyan were in the same tent, the atmosphere was a little awkward, but this scene gave Lin Yi a familiar feeling. It was also in a tent, with a beautiful and gentle girl. Lin Yi seemed to have experienced something similar. Was it Ning? Lin Yi shook his head. They were in a cave, not in a tent. But in the depths of his memory, it seemed like today had happened before. Was it a past life? Or was it a dream? Or was it fate between him and Wang Xinyan? If it was the latter, then it was possible. They were fated to be together, sitting in the same seat a few times, and now they were in the same bed. How many times could there be such a coincidence in life? Are you asleep? Wang Xinyan's words interrupted Lin Yi's thoughts, bringing Lin Yi back to reality. No, why? Lin Yi asked. I'm a little scared, it's so quiet here. Wang Xinyan entered the tent and felt that the surroundings were eerily quiet. She was in the barracks with her classmates, and there were soldiers patrolling outside. It had never been this quiet. You'll get used to it. This mountain is a dead mountain, there aren't any beasts, but it's safe. Lin Yi said, some of the mountains are not quiet, but they're even scarier at night. What Lin Yi said was the truth. The night in the tropical forest was the scariest. Not only did they have to be on guard against enemies, but they also had to be on guard against all kinds of beasts and poisonous insects. Here, however, there was no danger at all. And, can you talk to me? Wang Xinyan was tired, but she didn't sleep too much. She remembered that Lin Yi wasn't asleep yet, so she said apologetically, right, you haven't slept yet. Why don't you rest first? Don't worry about me, I'm a cultivator. I'm fine even if I don't sleep. Lin Yi shook his head and smiled. Lin Yi, what do you think we should pursue in life? Xinyan had been lost for a while now, not knowing the meaning of life. Was she just going to be a sacrifice for her family? Everyone has their own pursuits, I can't say for sure. Lin Yi was a little puzzled as to why Xinyan would ask such a profound question. Then what is your pursuit? Xinyan regretted asking the question. I'm sorry, I was just asking randomly. It's fine if you don't want to tell me. Once, a long time ago, I also asked myself what my pursuit and goal was. But during that period of time, I was very confused. I didn't know what I was pursuing and what my goal was. Every day, I seemed to be doing things that I didn't like, but I had to do them. Lin Yi said, at that time, I really didn't know what I was pursuing, and I didn't know if I would spend the rest of my life in such a muddle. Oh? What happened after that? Xinyan was a little surprised Lin Yi had that kind of feeling in time. After that, I came to Songshan, where I had my own love, my own friends. I wanted to protect them, to give them a better life. That was my pursuit and goal. Lin Yi said, only by becoming stronger can I achieve all of that. I see. Then I'm a little envious of you. Xinyan smiled bitterly. I've never had many friends since I was young, and I've never fallen for a guy before. I don't know what true love is, and I don't have any close friends either. I'm not your friend? Lin Yi asked with a smile. You. Of course you are. I think I've found it. I've said a lot of things in front of you, things I've never done before. Xinyan smiled. But you don't need me to protect you. You're the one protecting me instead. Friends help each other, of course. There's no rule that says who has to protect who. Lin Yi said. Yeah. But is there really such a thing as pure friendship between a guy and a girl? Xinyan asked all of a sudden. Lin Yi blinked. He was about to say that there was, but wasn't there one between him and her? But he shook his head inwardly. Pure. He'd had thoughts when he saw Xinyan naked, and he'd had a physiological reaction when he felt the softness of her breasts. Was that pure? Lin Yi couldn't help but have a reaction when he smelled the scent on Xinyan's body. It was a good thing that the tent was dark, and even with the moonlight, they could only see each other's faces clearly. Xinyan had a weird expression on her face as she looked at Lin Yi's stunned face. She turned her body sideways, wanting to chat more comfortably with Lin Yi, but something hard was pressing down on her. You brought him sausages? Xinyan asked subconsciously. But after she said that, she immediately realized that something was wrong. She also knew what she had grabbed. Her face immediately turned red, and she quickly let go of her hand. She turned around and snorted, sure enough, pervert. That's a normal reaction. Lin Yi smiled bitterly, a little helpless. We're so close, and you smell so good. Xinyan's face reddened even more at Lin Yi's mention of her scent. I'm sleepy, I fell asleep. Lin Yi didn't know what to say. He shook his head and calmed himself down before channeling the second stage of the art of dragon mastery. Xin Yan waited for a while, and felt a little apologetic when she saw that Lin Yi wasn't talking. She'd been in biology classes before, and she knew that this was a normal reaction from Lin Yi. He didn't do it on purpose, and it would have been a problem if he hadn't. But she didn't want to apologize, and so she fell asleep. Xin Yan woke up in the latter half of the night. She'd drunk too much water earlier, and her body was reacting. She wanted to go to the bathroom, but it was pitch black outside. She hesitated for a moment before reaching out to touch Lin Yi. "Lin Yi, what's wrong?" Lin Yi asked, opening his eyes. Lin Yi opened his eyes all of a sudden, not the slightest bit sleepy on his face. Xin Yan jumped. You're not asleep. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1921. Oh, I'm resting. There aren't many people here, I'm afraid something might happen. Lin Yi said, not bothering to explain about his training. Other practitioners needed to sleep, after all. Only the art of dragon mastery allowed him to train in the jade space without sleeping. Xin Yan felt a little moved. Lin Yi didn't sleep because he was afraid of danger. Xin Yan felt a little embarrassed at the thought she'd called him a pervert before. If he was a pervert, why didn't he do something to her when she was asleep? I'm sorry, I shouldn't have called you that. Xin Yan said. Called me that? Since when did you curse me? Lin Yi didn't know what Xin Yan was talking about. Are you dreaming or something? No, it was before I slept. I called you a pervert. Xin Yan said, a little embarrassed. Oh. It's nothing. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Oh, right, why did you call me? Xin Yan only remembered her goal after Lin Yi's reminder. I drank too much water, and I wanted to go out, but I'm a little scared. I see. Let's go, I'll stay with you. Lin Yi sat up, but realized that Xin Yan might misunderstand if he said that. I mean, I'll be watching you from afar. Ugh. I don't mean watching you, I mean guarding you. Lin Yi realized that the more he said, the more ambiguous it got. He might as well not say it. Okay. Xin Yan understood what Lin Yi meant. She walked out of the tent first, blushing a little. Xin Yan looked left and right. She and Lin Yi had chosen a flat, empty space. It was precisely because of this that Lin Yi chose this place. There really wasn't anything to hide in if they wanted to go to the bathroom. Xin Yan had no choice but to run towards the forest. She ran for a few hundred meters before disappearing into a thicket. Lin Yi followed slowly, but didn't get too close. He only needed to sense where Xin Yan was. Lin Yi didn't use his consciousness to sense where Xin Yan was either. He'd be able to see her clearly that way. Xin Yan was in a hurry, but Lin Yi wasn't far from her. Wouldn't he be able to hear her if she were to make a sound that could be heard in the silence of the night? Xin Yan couldn't pee at the thought of that embarrassing shushing sound. Lin Yi waited for a long time, but didn't hear any movement from Xin Yan. It was a little strange, but he didn't want her to feel awkward, so he didn't ask or walk over. Instead, he entered the jade space and used his consciousness to sense what was going on in the distance. He saw Xin Yan squatting there with a blushing face. Lin Yi quickly looked away, and just as Lin Yi was about to retract his gaze, he saw two people about 20 meters in front of Xin Yan. Two people in camouflage clothes. They didn't stand out in the dark of the forest, but Lin Yi could see them clearly with his consciousness. One of them was a Chinese, and the other was a foreigner with blonde hair. What were they doing here in the middle of the night? Thinking of this, Lin Yi didn't retract his divine sense, but locked onto these two people. Audie, I've brought the goods. Do you have the money ready? It was the Chinese who spoke. The two seemed to have just met. Baldy, why are you here? Wasn't it Brother De who delivered the goods before? Audie recognized the man, but it wasn't the person he knew before. It was one of the people he knew, so he asked cautiously. Brother De has been sent to the Fire Wolf gang for a new mission. I'll be taking over here. The man called Baldy said proudly. From now on, I'll be in charge of the border drug trade. Oh. Then I'll call you Baldy Bro from now on. Congratulations. The foreigner spoke fluent Chinese. Ha ha ha, you flatter me. Bald Wolf laughed. He was obviously happy about his promotion. Oh. Xinyan was nervous to begin with, and the sudden burst of laughter made her scream out of reflex. Baldy's voice was very soft, and Lin Yi could only tell what they were saying through his lips. The laughter, however, was a little too loud in this quiet mountain. Xinyan didn't think that there would be other people around, and the voice clearly wasn't Lin Yi's. It was hoarse and unpleasant, and it was a man's voice. Xinyan screamed subconsciously, but someone covered her mouth before she could finish. Xinyan was even more shocked. She'd just heard the laughter, and now she was being kidnapped. But Lin Yi's voice rang in her ears. Don't worry, it's me. Xinyan relaxed when she heard it was Lin Yi. But now that she relaxed, all the pee she'd been holding in came out. Lin Yi was kneeling in front of her, covering her mouth, and her pee was all over Lin Yi's pants. Xinyan was embarrassed, but she couldn't control herself. She wanted to dig a hole in the ground and hide in it. How embarrassing was this? She'd let Lin Yi see her upper body, and now he'd seen her lower body, and now she'd peed all over him. But, although Lin Yi saw Xinyan pee all over himself, it was a rather romantic scene, but Lin Yi wasn't in the mood to peek. His attention was on the two people not far away. Lin Yi wasn't a nosy person, and what these two were doing here had nothing to do with him. But when Atiti mentioned De Bro, it caught Lin Yi's attention. Wasn't Jiang Wen's brother Jinda called De Bro? Just when Lin Yi wanted to confirm if this De Bro was Jinda, the bald wolf's words confirmed Lin Yi's suspicions. Since the wolf mentioned the fire wolves, then De Bro had to be Jinda. Since it was related to the fire wolves and Jinda, Lin Yi didn't mind creating some accidents for these two. They were people and gangs that had deep grudges against him. Xinyan's scream caught Atiti's attention as well, but it was dark on the mountain, and he couldn't see far. Xinyan was squatting on the ground, and there were bushes in front of her. They couldn't see each other at all. What's that sound? Atiti asked, is it the border patrol? Chapter 1922. That shouldn't be the case. I've already asked around. These days are the military training days for Donghai Industry University, and the border guards are using this mountain as a training ground. There's no way they would be patrolling at this time, Baldy frowned. Donghai Industry University's military training wasn't a secret, and Baldy didn't need to ask around to get the information. It was absolutely true. Then could it be that there are students training nearby? Audie asked. That's impossible. We, the Red Conches, have been doing this for years, and we know the range of the training every year. This place is too far, and it's impossible for the students to come and go in 2 days. Those students aren't us, so how could they walk this far? Baldy shook his head. Maybe we heard wrongly. There's an owl nearby, and it sounded similar to the sound just now. If the border guards were here, then it would be a gunshot. You and I wouldn't be able to stand here and talk. You're right. Audie nodded after not hearing any strange noises for a long time. But at that moment, the sound came again, doof, goo. The sound came from Lin Yi's mouth, mimicking the sound of an owl. Fuck, it really is an owl. That scared me to death. Audie heard it clearly this time and shook his head. No matter what, let's hurry up and trade. The goods are here. Check them. Baldy placed a black suitcase in front of Audie. Here, this is the money. Check it too. Audie handed a suitcase to Baldy. The two were old partners, and they didn't need to be too cautious. They checked the contents of the suitcase and closed it after finding nothing wrong. Lin Yi saw the contents of the suitcase clearly. One was filled with drugs, and the other was filled with US dollars. Lin Yi wasn't interested in the drugs, but he was interested in the US dollars. Although he had extorted 2 billion from Jiang Wen, Lin Yi didn't have much to spend since Fatty Lai had to build his company. This suitcase of US dollars could help alleviate some of the financial pressure on Lin Yi. Most importantly, Lin Yi suddenly thought of Xiaoke from the orphanage. She probably needed money, right? With that in mind, Lin Yi decided that he was going to take advantage of the situation. He whispered into Xinyan's ear. There's 2 bad guys. Stay here and don't move. I'll take care of them. Xinyan wasn't scared anymore. All that was left was shyness. She nodded. It was only then that Lin Yi remembered that he was still covering Xinyan's mouth. He quickly let go and walked over to the 2 drug dealers. However, the 2 drug dealers were still talking about something after the transaction. I say, Brother Bald Wolf, why are there fewer and fewer goods recently? We have a shortage over there. Can you increase the supply? Audie asked as he weighed the suitcase in his hand. Our original partner, House Yu, has some problems. Without the support of House Yu's masters, our authority in the Golden Triangle has been declining. Bald Wolf sighed. I've already talked to the boss. He'll talk to the higher-ups and see if they can send a few practitioners over. That way, we can regain our authority. Alright, this is your gang's internal matter. I have no right to interfere. I'll be leaving first. I don't feel at ease staying at the border for another minute. Audie nodded and prepared to leave. Bald Wolf took the money and prepared to leave as well. However, before the 2 of them could take a step, they groaned and fell to the ground. These people weren't even practitioners, and Lin Yi could knock them out without a sound. Lin Yi didn't kill them. Although it was easy for Lin Yi to kill these 2, Lin Yi still wanted to ask Bald Wolf a few questions. Lin Yi didn't want to force a confession out of someone like Baldy. He took out a couple of needles and stuck them into Baldy's head, waking him up as well. His eyes were a little glazed over. I'll ask you a few questions. Answer them one by one. Don't hide anything, Lin Yi said sternly. Yes. Bald Wolf seemed to have entered a hypnotic state. He had lost his consciousness. This method was taught to Lin Yi by his master. Although it was effective, it could only be used on low-leveled people. After all, a practitioner's will was extremely strong. Even golden-class practitioners had strong spiritual power. Lin Yi couldn't hypnotize them with this method. However, this method was the fastest and most effective way to deal with such a small fry. However, after using it, there would be a certain side effect, which was that the person would forget a part of their memory. This memory varied from person to person. The shortest would be 1 day, and the longest would be 4 to 5 days. Therefore, they would not remember being hypnotized at all. Lin Yi planned on using the same method on the foreigner, making them forget what happened recently. That way, he'd be able to take the box of dollars without anyone noticing. As for these 2, Lin Yi planned on handing them over to Chen Yutian for him, Yang Huijuan, and Ling Shan to work together. After all, capturing so many drugs was a huge achievement. Lin Yi didn't mind letting these 2 use their full potential. It'd be a waste to just kill them. What's your name? What do you do? What organization do you belong to? Lin Yi asked. I'm Tu Lang, bald wolf in the underworld. I'm in charge of the drug trade for Red Conches. Bald Wolf said. Where's the headquarters of Red Conches? How many people are there? Who's the boss? What's his relationship with the Fire Wolves? Lin Yi asked. The headquarters of Red Conches is overseas. I don't know where it is. The one in China is just a branch, Bald Wolf said. Bald Wolf said, the Red Conch branch is in Qingrun City. The first master is dead, and the second master has been arrested. Currently, the third master is in charge. I don't know the third master's name because everyone calls him third master. Our Red Conches and the Fire Wolves are brother gangs. We help each other, but I don't know the details. Lin Yi was surprised by Bald Wolf's words. He didn't expect Red Conch's headquarters to be overseas. He didn't even know where it was. The one in China was just a branch. According to what he said, the big boss that Feng Tianlong killed was just a person in charge of Red Conch's branch. Red Conch's had a lot of resources. Is there a cultivator guarding the Red Conch? What's the highest level? Lin Yi asked. The third boss is a practitioner himself. He's at the peak of the late phase of the mystic class. Other than him, there's only one master at the early phase of the golden class. Bald Wolf said. Red Conch's business is with House Yu. All the masters are from House Yu. Chapter 1923. Lin Yi nodded. It seemed like this Red Conches wasn't that strong. The strongest was only a mystic class. Of course, this was only the strength of the branch. No one knew how strong the headquarters was. But Lin Yi didn't suspect that he was lying. Putting aside the fact that he couldn't lie in this situation, just from what he said to Otidi, it was obvious that House Yu was destroyed, and Red Conch's drug business was affected as well. Their power in the Golden Triangle was reduced. Tell me the address of the Fire Wolf Gang's branch. Lin Yi said. I don't know the address. I'm just the person in charge of the drug business in Donghai. Every time I go to a meeting, it's the Conch Bar in Qingrun City. That's a small base for the Red Conches, Baldy said. Conch Bar. Lin Yi was surprised. These Red Conches were quite daring. They made a bar and called it Conch Bar. Weren't they afraid of being exposed? But Lin Yi thought that no one would connect this Conch Bar with the Red Conches. As the saying goes, the most dangerous place is the safest place. This was probably the case. Who else is in charge of the drug business? Lin Yi continued. It used to be Brother De. We used to work under the third head. Even when we were working with House Yu, he was the one who handled the whole thing. Now that he's in charge, he's still the one in charge, Baldy said. Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. It seemed like Armadillo's revenge was on this third head in charge. This guy was the mastermind behind House Yu's collaboration. No wonder there was no news from the second head in charge when they captured him. He wasn't in charge of the drug trafficking. Alright, you can sleep now. Lin Yi had asked everything he needed to ask. If he asked more, Baldy wouldn't know. He had limited knowledge. He was just a small character. As for Otidi, Lin Yi did the same, but Otidi was a foreign gang leader. Lin Yi wouldn't be able to get anything useful out of him. Lin Yi wasn't interested in the gang at all. He let Otidi go back to sleep. After that, Lin Yi walked toward Xinyan. Lin Yi poked the two with needles. They wouldn't wake up for at least 2 hours. Xinyan's heart tightened when she heard footsteps. She was so nervous that she forgot to pull up her pants. She was just squatting there. She was afraid that something would happen to Lin Yi, but Lin Yi and the two were talking softly. Xinyan couldn't hear them, and she didn't dare stand up. Lin Yi. Is that you? Xinyan said, suppressing her fear as the footsteps got closer. Yes, Xinyan, it's me. Lin Yi said as he walked up to Xinyan. What he saw stunned Lin Yi. Ugh, what's wrong? Xinyan stood up, pausing at the look on Lin Yi's face. A gust of wind blew past, and Xinyan realized that she'd forgotten to pull up her pants. Embarrassed, she quickly pulled them up. I forgot, haha, I know. I don't think you're trying to seduce me. Lin Yi joked. You. Xinyan blushed. She knew that Lin Yi was joking. She quickly changed the topic. Right, Lin Yi, those people, they're knocked out, but I'm afraid we'll have to go back tonight. Lin Yi said. Oh. Xinyan nodded. Alright, I've rested enough, and my stamina is back. I'll contact Instructor Chin. Maybe we don't have to walk back. Someone's going to pick us up. Lin Yi smiled. Right, your pants. Xinyan said apologetically when she saw the wet patch on Lin Yi's pants. She'd puked on Lin Yi's pants, and now she'd peed on Lin Yi's pants. Did Lin Yi think she was a meddlesome girl? Oh, it's fine. There's no smell. I'll be fine after I dry it. Lin Yi didn't mind. Xinyan was embarrassed, and didn't say anything else. At the foot of the mountain, in the SUV, a soldier in charge of monitoring the coordinates saw the blinking on the screen. He immediately reported to Chen Yutian, who was taking a nap. Captain Chen, we have a situation. Oh. Chen Yutian woke up immediately. He looked at the screen, but the blinking coordinates stunned him. It was Lin Yi and Wang Xinyan's coordinates. Chen Yutian thought that any of the students who participated in the field training could be in trouble. Only Lin Yi wouldn't be in trouble. Lin Yi was an Earth class. It would be unbelievable if a jungle like this could stop Lin Yi. But it just had to be Lin Yi's coordinates. If something happened to Lin Yi, it would be a huge problem. Chen Yutian didn't dare to underestimate it. He quickly ordered, get the rescue helicopter ready. I'll go check it out myself. Yes. A soldier on standby received the order and went to get the helicopter ready. Chen Yutian quickly got out of the SUV and walked towards the helicopter. However, Chen Yutian refused everyone else to get on the helicopter. He was going to fly the helicopter alone to get Lin Yi. If Lin Yi was in danger, ordinary people wouldn't be able to help. Chen Yutian was the strongest here, and it was the safest for him to go alone. Although it was useless for him to go if it was something even Lin Yi couldn't handle, since Lin Yi sent out the signal, it meant that Lin Yi should be fine. To keep it a secret, Chen Yutian decided to go alone. The speed of the helicopter was much faster than walking. Soon, Chen Yutian got close to the coordinates. He saw Lin Yi's tent. There was an empty space near the tent, and Chen Yutian landed the helicopter without hesitation. However, what surprised Chen Yutian was that Lin Yi and Wang Xinyan were perfectly fine after he got off the helicopter. They were waiting for him at the tent, and under Lin Yi's feet, there were two strangers lying on the ground. He didn't know if they were dead or alive. Boss. Chen Yutian called Lin Yi boss when there were no outsiders around. Wang Xinyan looked at Chen Yutian in surprise, and then looked at Lin Yi. Instructor Chen called Lin Yi boss. What was going on? Although she was confused, she didn't ask. Yutian, there are two drug dealers here. They were trading, and I caught them. Lin Yi pointed at the two people on the ground. Chapter 1936, Back to School. What? Drug dealers? Chen Yutian's eyes widened in shock. He quickly ran over. Boss, what's going on? Why are there drug dealers here? It's like this. Lin Yi said and told Qin Yutian about the drug dealers. Of course, he left out the part about Wang Xinyan going to the washroom. I used silver needles to deal with these two people, and I asked around about the people behind them. They are from the Red Conch organization, but they will have temporary amnesia. Perhaps they won't remember the trade, Qin Yutian nodded. He knew about Lin Yi's methods, and he knew why Lin Yi wanted to know about the Red Conch organization. He didn't ask much. Temporary amnesia didn't matter as long as these two were drug dealers. The details of the trade weren't important. This is the box of drugs, right? Qin Yutian looked at the suitcase on the ground and asked. Yes, you can bring him back, but he'll be working on this case with Huaijuan and Lingshan. They've just come to Donghai and solved this case. They're pretty stable now. Lin Yi said to Yutian. No problem. Qin Yutian nodded. He didn't even ask if there was cash. From Yutian's point of view, the drug dealers would transfer money over the phone. Even if there was cash, he wouldn't ask if it was taken away by Lin Yi. Boss, why don't you and sis-in-law Xinyan take the helicopter back? Your mission is considered complete, and you caught 2 drug dealers. If it wasn't for you not wanting to be famous, you could get a lot of points for this contribution. So you guys are the first to complete the mission. Okay, I want to go back too. Lin Yi nodded. Xinyan found it very weird that Instructor Qin was calling her sis-in-law, but she didn't go out of her way to correct him. Her relationship with Lin Yi was getting more and more beyond friendship. Lin Yi packed up quickly, and Qin Yutian came over to help him take down the tent. The 2 drug dealers were thrown into the car, and the helicopter started flying down the mountain. No one objected to the fact that Lin Yi and Xinyan took the first place. They all knew that Lin Yi's contribution alone was worth more than the first place's points, but Lin Yi kept a low profile and didn't want to announce it. Qin Yutian called Huaijuan and told him to bring the 2 drug dealers back. Usually, the border guards would hand the drug dealers over to the local police for trial. Huaijuan was speechless when he heard that Lin Yi caught 2 drug dealers on the way up the mountain, but he was grateful that Lin Yi wanted him and Lingshan to do something. He drove over the night and brought the 2 drug dealers away. As for the aftermath, Lin Yi and Yutian didn't have to worry about it. Huaijuan felt weird when he brought the drug dealers away. Lin Yi was too amazing. He just talked to him about the drug dealers and the Red Conch a few days ago, and he brought the drug dealers back just like that. Lingshan said that as long as the case was handed to Lin Yi, there would be no case that couldn't be solved. Huaijuan was convinced that it was true. Huaijuan knew that Lin Yi was amazing, but he didn't expect him to be this amazing. Finding an enemy in the forest and finding a criminal in the city were 2 different things, and the methods of investigation were different as well. But for Lin Yi, it was the same. It was still early, and Yutian called for an off-road vehicle for Lin Yi and Xinyan to get in and rest. The car was spacious, and sleeping was no problem after putting down the seats. But Lin Yi's first thought was to have sex in the car. Xinyan thought of it as well, but she didn't say anything. She knew her relationship with Lin Yi very well, and although they did flirt a lot, they were actually innocent. Because of the drug dealers on the mountain, the following faculties cancelled the field training, and moved on to the next step, the military boxing competition. After the military training, everyone returned to school, and the freshman party was about to begin. The freshmen's first semester wasn't very stressful. There were no specialized classes, and most of the time was filled with activities. Military training, freshman party, student council election, extracurricular club registration, sports day, art festival, and so on. The freshman party of the medicine faculty was a big problem every year. The programs at the gala were generally produced by majors, not by classes. Therefore, a major usually had at least 5 classes. At the very least, they could come up with a program. However, the pharmaceutical department only had 1 class, and the number of people in that class was very small. If they had to come up with a program, this problem would fall on the shoulders of every class monitor. Bai Weituo even made a bet with Zhang Duopan. Whoever got the highest score in the freshman party would be able to pursue He Meiyue, and whoever got the lowest score would be automatically eliminated. Big Brother Lin, Xiaodao, Xingji, can you help me think of a way? As soon as the military training ended and they returned to the dormitory, Bai Weituo was anxious. He hadn't thought about it before, but when it really came, he realized how difficult it was to organize a program. You sing well, go and sing a solo. Song Xiaodao said helplessly, we don't have artistic cells. Asking us to help you think of a way is equivalent to harming you. Solo. Bai Weituo shook his head. Although his singing was very good, it wasn't particularly outstanding. If it was in a party with fewer people, such as a junior high school art festival, it was still possible to get a place. But on a university campus where there were many talented people, a solo had no special characteristics, and it was very difficult to get a place. Moreover, Bai Weituo also knew that in the school, in the past freshman parties, it was usually a group program that won a place, not an individual program. As a freshman, being able to unite the group was a real ability, and individual ability was nothing. Then let's sing a duet. If you can sing, then sing. If you can't sing, then just harmonize or lip sync. Anyone can do it, Lin Yi said. Bai Weituo was stunned, but really, Lin Yi's move was a good one. This was because Bai Weituo had also seen some celebrity concerts. The celebrity was the main host in the front, and there was a choir at the back to help harmonize or sing a small part. If he was the main singer, and then let the students in the class go up to harmonize, this could be considered a group program. Thinking of this, Bai Weituo's eyes lit up, then let's do it this way. I'll go back and talk to the students. Chapter 1924. Yeah, go get ready, I'll be heading out for a bit. Lin Yi received a text from the miss, saying that Faubert was coming over. Alright, Lin bro, go do what you need to do, Bai Weituo said as he prepared to contact his classmates. As Bai Weituo spoke, he was ready to contact his classmates. Everyone was in the same dormitory building, and it was also on the same floor. It was very convenient to contact them. Lin Yi left the dorm and went to the car park. The miss and Shu weren't there yet, but he was surprised to see Xinyan there. Xinyan had changed back into her old clothes, and Lin Yi was still in his camouflage uniform. Xinyan was a little surprised, but then she remembered that she had spit on Lin Yi's pants. People might misunderstand if word got out. But wasn't there still her pee on his clothes? Xinyan's face reddened at the thought. Xinyan, what's wrong? Lin Yi was a little puzzled. Why was this girl blushing when she saw him? She wasn't this shy even when they were sleeping in the same bed. And nothing, I need to go out and buy some stuff. Xinyan didn't hide anything in front of Lin Yi. She took out a car key and walked up to one of the cars. It was the same one she'd driven on the business street. Lin Yi had seen it before. Book Ocean Pavilion Net. Buy stuff. Lin Yi blinked. Was she going to buy stuff for the ladies? Why else would she blush? But Lin Yi didn't ask. Are you going to the supermarket? Supermarket. Xinyan shook her head. No, I need to go to the hospital, I'm cold all over, I think I'm going to catch a cold. Xinyan didn't wear much during the military training, but she managed to persevere. She didn't expect to catch a cold when she got back to school. She wanted to go to the hospital as soon as possible, she didn't want to get sick right after school started. Cold. Lin Yi said, then you don't have to go. I'll help you take a look. Lin Yi was a doctor, after all. Treating minor illnesses like this was a piece of cake for him. Wang Xinyan was his friend, so he didn't mind helping her out. As for the others, Lin Yi wouldn't be so kind. Yes, you're a doctor. Xinyan suddenly remembered that Lin Yi was a doctor. Back in the business district, Lin Yi had quickly healed that fainted old man and helped her out. Moreover, when he was on the way to the military training, he got carsick and vomited, but Lin Yi quickly cured him. Go to your car. Lin Yi knew that the miss and Shu would be here soon, and it wouldn't be good if Xinyan got in the car. It would be better for him to get treated in Xinyan's car. Book C Pavilion, net. Okay. Xinyan nodded without hesitation. The two got into Xinyan's car, but this scene was witnessed by the miss and Shu, who were walking over from not too far away. Yao, the school forum said that Wang Xinyan and Shield Bro had sex on the roof. It's so cool, but shouldn't we do some damage? Yushu said. Meng Yao, on the other hand, had a dark expression on her face. The school's BBS seemed to be telling the truth, and not only that, it said that Lin Yi and Wang Xinyan had sex in the gutter behind the barracks, and that Lin Yi had put his hand under Xinyan's shirt on the way to military training, and that Xinyan had even helped him do it with her mouth. But these were all hearsay, and there was no proof. Meng Yao would rather believe these rumors because she didn't think that Lin Yi was such a perverted person. She and Shu had lived with him for so long, and Lin Yi hadn't done anything out of line. Even when they were naked, he didn't lose his mind. When he was with Tang Yun and Xiao Xiao, the most intimate thing he did was holding hands. He just met Wang Xinyan not long ago, how could he be this close? Shu, what sex? How is that possible? If he wanted to have sex, he would have done it a long time ago. Why would he wait until now? I think it's most likely Xinyan's pursuers who saw how close Lin Yi and Xinyan got, and started slandering them. Meng Yao said. Even if that's not the case, Xinyan's still one of the prettiest girls in the first year. It's normal for there to be rumors about her. It's not impossible for people to start rumors like that. Didn't that little can say the same thing about you and her? Didn't you get an abortion? Oh, you're right. Yushu nodded. She was about to say something when she raised her head to see Lin Yi and Wang Xinyan getting into a sports car. She exclaimed. Yao, isn't that Shield Bro? Ming Yao's face turned green. She was just defending Lin Yi, and Lin Yi got into someone else's car. How could she accept this? But Meng Yao still said, maybe they're going to get something or take a break. Oh, I'll send Detective Holmes to investigate then. With that, Yushu ran over to the scene. Xinyan's sports car had a film around it, so if you didn't lie down in front of it, you wouldn't be able to see what was going on inside. Xinyan, on the other hand, was too shy to take off her clothes in front of Lin Yi, so Lin Yi had no choice but to start massaging her under her clothes. Ah! Xinyan couldn't help but moan in comfort. Lin Yi's massage technique didn't look special, but Xinyan had never felt so relaxed before. Xinyan's face reddened a little after that moaning. Why did that sound so weird? Was he doing something? But Lin Yi didn't seem to mind at all, he was still focused on massaging her. Xinyan, on the other hand, relaxed a little. She couldn't hold it in any longer, and started moaning in comfort. Yushu couldn't see what was going on inside the car, so she could only lean her head against the car window and look inside. Xinyan's moans of comfort were heard before she could get a good look. She took a closer look and saw that Lin Yi's hand was moving around inside Xinyan's clothes, as if he was. Yushu was a little taken aback. Since when did Shield Bro get this good? She'd definitely let him touch her when she got back. Lin Yi was so focused on massaging Xinyan that he didn't even notice the person lying on the car's side. They were in the school's parking lot, after all, and there shouldn't be anyone peeking at them, right? Besides, the jade wouldn't give any warnings, so there shouldn't be any danger. Yushu was one of Lin Yi's teammates. Anyway, the jade wouldn't give any warnings even if it saw her coming. Yushu remembered her mission after a while, and quickly ran back to report to Meng Yao. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1925. What's wrong, Shu? Why's your face so red? Meng Yao frowned. Could it be that Lin Yi and Xinyan were doing something shameful in the car? Shield Bro was touching Xinyan in the car, and Xinyan was there. Book Ocean Pavilion Net. Yushu said. Meng Yao didn't know what to say. Can't you use a more elegant word to replace it? But Yushu's words ignited Meng Yao's heart. She didn't know if it was because of Tang Yun or something else, but she rushed to Xinyan's car and pulled the door open. She roared at Lin Yi, you bastard. Get the fuck out of the car. How can you face Xiao Xiao like this? Since she couldn't mention Tang Yun, she could only use Xiao Xiao. Luckily, she wasn't that impulsive. Lin Yi and Xinyan didn't lock the car door, and Meng Yao didn't think that she would be able to pull the door open. She looked into the car and saw that Lin Yi's hand was still in Xinyan's clothes. Meng Yao was about to explode from anger. Could it be that the news was true? Yao Yao. What's wrong with you? Lin Yi paused as he looked at the furious Meng Yao, not understanding what was going on. Book Ocean Pavilion Net. Lin Yi didn't know what was going on, but Xinyan understood why Meng Yao was angry. She must have misunderstood that Lin Yi and her were doing something shameful here. She blushed and lowered her head, not daring to look at Meng Yao and the others. Shield Bro, you touched Xinyan in the car. Yao Yao's jealous. Yushu said. Bullshit. Meng Yao glared at Yushu. I'm just feeling sorry for Xiao Xiao, she's training, and you're here hitting on girls. Lin Yi finally understood why Meng Yao was so angry. She'd misunderstood him and Xinyan. Xinyan caught a cold. I'll give her a massage so she doesn't need to go to the hospital for an injection. Lin Yi said, because there are many people outside, I chose to do it in the car. Lin Yi explained. Of course, this was only for Meng Yao. If it were someone else, Lin Yi wouldn't even bother explaining. Ah. Meng Yao knew that Lin Yi wasn't someone who liked to lie. If he said that, then it had to be true. He'd admitted it when he brought Tang Yun and Xiao Xiao back, and it didn't matter if Meng Yao wanted it or not. Lin Yi had done it, and he wouldn't hide anything. So, Lin Yi and Xinyan were probably misunderstood by her. With that thought, Meng Yao calmed down and looked at Xinyan. She realized that although Lin Yi's hand was inside Xinyan's shirt, it was on her back. Xinyan's bra was still on her body, and there were no signs of her pants being taken off or undone. It seemed like Lin Yi was really treating Xinyan. I'm sorry. I misunderstood you guys, I was just worried about Xiao Xiao. I'm sorry. Book Ocean Pavilion. Meng Yao was a little awkward. It'd be fine if it was just Lin Yi, but the problem was that she'd misunderstood Xinyan as well. The two of them weren't familiar with each other, and it wasn't right for them to make such a big mistake. Wang Xinyan didn't think that Meng Yao would apologize immediately after realizing her wrongdoing. This was out of her expectations. Although there was nothing going on between her and Lin Yi, letting a boy massage her body was a very ambiguous thing to do. She felt a little guilty. Xinyan would have never imagined letting a boy touch her body before, but it was so natural now that she was with Lin Yi. She felt like she was having an affair, as if she was a girl who didn't have any self-respect, and letting a boy touch her like that. Not only did she not feel conflicted, but it actually felt good. Xinyan knew that it was because of Lin Yi's skill in massaging, but it also proved that she didn't mind Lin Yi doing it. Even if Meng Yao were to scold her, Xinyan wouldn't say a word. It's nothing. I know Xiao Xiao too. I'm just good friends with Lin Yi. Xinyan explained subconsciously. And, if that's the case, you guys can continue. Although Meng Yao felt that Lin Yi touching Xinyan's body was inappropriate, she didn't stop him when she thought that Lin Yi was treating a patient. After all, when she was poisoned, she took off her clothes and let Lin Yi treat her, and what was even more embarrassing was that she peed on Lin Yi's face. She and Lin Yi were even worse, but weren't she and Lin Yi friends? What Meng Yao didn't know was that Xinyan had already let Lin Yi see her naked, and that she peed on Lin Yi as well. Who knew what she would think if she knew? Oh, shield bro, I've got a cold too. You should touch Shu later, give her a massage. Yushu was curious why Xinyan felt so good just now, even moaning happily. She wanted to give it a try. Shu! Meng Yao grabbed Shu's ear and pulled her to the side, closing the car door for Lin Yi and Xinyan. Xinyan was a little speechless at Yushu. Wasn't this girl a little too open? How could he say such a thing in public? But she was a girl who dared to love and hate, stronger than she was. Xinyan couldn't help but smile bitterly at the thought of her own life and her engagement. With Meng Yao and Yushu outside, Xinyan didn't dare to moan anymore. She bit her lips and endured the pleasure, continuing to enjoy Lin Yi's massage. She didn't know why, but Xinyan felt a little excited. Was it because Meng Yao and Yushu were standing outside the car? Oh! Xinyan's mind wandered, and she couldn't keep her mouth shut. She didn't want to hold it in anymore, though. Once was the same thing, twice wasn't much. She'd get used to it after the third time, because they were close. Xinyan's moans traveled into Meng Yao and Yushu's ears. Yao Yao, listen, that fox Wang seems to be having a good time. Yushu said. Don't give people random nicknames. Meng Yao frowned. She knew that Xinyan was moaning because of Lin Yi's massage, but was it really that good? Oh. Yushu said, but I think she's interested in Shield Bro. Xiao Xiao already told him to find a big wife, so why should we care? Meng Yao shook her head, remembering Xiao Xiao's words. Oh, even if he wants to find a big wife, we need to keep an eye on him. Even if Fox Wong wants to be Shield Bro's big wife, she'd have to please us first. We need to keep an eye on Xiao Xiao, Yushu said. Chapter 1926. Yeah. Meng Yao's eyes lit up. Xiao Xiao telling Lin Yi to find a main wife wasn't wrong, but she and Shu had to help her check as well. Even without Xiao Xiao, they still had to complete Tang Yun's request. Inside the car, Xinyan felt more and more comfortable. It was as if she was going to fly into the sky, and she was sweating as well. She had to admit that treating a cold like this was a pleasure, 1,000 times better than getting in 4 drip. I'm done. Lin Yi finished the massage. Lin Yi had wanted to use the needles, but Lin Yi threw them into his backpack after dealing with the 2 drug dealers. His backpack was in the dorm now, and Lin Yi didn't bother going back to get it. For a cold like this, there was no difference between massage and needles. Ah. It's done. It was only then that Xinyan realized that she was drenched in sweat, and that her clothes were all wet. But she did feel refreshed, and the dizziness she'd been feeling before was gone. She didn't want to leave, though. She felt like the treatment was going a little too fast, but she cursed herself for being shameless. Was she craving the feeling of Lin Yi's hands massaging her body? Xinyan's face was a little unreadable, and Lin Yi was a little confused. Why do you look a little weird? Am I not completely healed? Xinyan wanted to say, you're not healed. Check me again, but she didn't dare to do that. She felt that what she'd done these past few days had already crossed the line, even more so than anything she'd done since she was young. If she continued like this, wouldn't she become a bad girl? I'm healed, I'm healed. I'm just sweating a little, and I'm a little hot. I need to cool down, Sinyan said quickly. Book Ocean Pavilion. Net. Cool down. That won't do. Stay in the car and don't go out. Wait until the sweat is gone before you go out. Otherwise, you will catch a cold again. Lin Yi said. Okay, you go do what you need to do then. I'll be fine in the car, Sinyan said. Okay, then I'll leave first. Call me anytime if you need anything. Lin Yi nodded. Since Sinyan's illness was cured, there was no point in him staying here any longer. Thanks, Sinyan said. What's there to thank? We're comrades. Lin Yi laughed. Yeah, we're comrades in arms, Sinyan said with a smile. Yeah, she and Lin Yi were comrades in arms. What was there to be so particular about? Lin Yi got off the car and nodded to Miss and Shu. Okay, let's go. Okay, Faubert said that he's inspecting the market in Donghai. Dad wants to expand his business here so that Pingjian Industries can grow and see us more often, Meng Yao said. Faubert said that we'll call him when we get home and he'll come over. Then let's go back and wait for him now. Right, did you tell Grandma's son? Let her prepare some food and we'll eat at home tonight, Lin Yi said. I already told Grandma's son, and she's probably preparing it already, Meng Yao said. Right, Lin Yi, why are you still wearing the uniform from the military training? Oh, the previous set of clothes was dirty and I didn't have time to wash it, so I didn't change it, Lin Yi said. Meng Yao nodded and didn't say anything. The three got in the car, and Lin Yi drove back to the Shuashang district. As expected, when they got back to the villa, Grandma's son was busy in the kitchen. The fragrance from the kitchen made people salivate. Grandma's son is really good. Her cooking is even better than those chefs in the hotels. Meng Yao felt that it was really a happy thing to have Grandma's son as a housekeeper here. Lin Yi nodded. Lin Yi was also very confused about this. Grandma's son was a scavenger, how could she have such cooking skills? This was really a strange thing. But the most important thing was that Grandma's son's memory of the past was a little blurry. She couldn't remember the past, so Lin Yi knew nothing about her background. But one thing was certain. From all the signs, Grandma's son should be a person with a story, but for some reason, she lost her memory. Although she lost her memory, she didn't lose her cooking skills. It was probably an instinct. Of course, Lin Yi didn't deliberately ask about Grandma's son's past, nor did he try to help her recover her memory. Everyone had their own secrets and difficulties, and he didn't want to delve into it. What if it was a memory that Grandma's son didn't want to remember? Shaking his head, Lin Yi called Faubert. Little Yi, have you gone back? Faubert's voice came from the other side of the phone. Faubert, we're back. We're in the villa in the Shuashang district. Lin Yi said, where are you? I looked at the location of a few buildings that are being sold and took some pictures. I'm going to discuss with Mr. Chu to see if it's a suitable place to set up a branch company in Donghai City. Faubert said, it's almost done now. I'll go over now. And you can go to the villa area in the Shuashang district. My jeep is parked outside the villa. It's that one, Lin Yi said. Okay, I'll go over now. Faubert said. After hanging up the phone, Grandma's son came out with a plate of spicy chicken and placed it on the table. It was really delicious. It made people salivate at first glance. Mr. Lin, Miss Chu, when will the guests arrive? There are also a few hot dishes. It's better to eat them while they're hot. Grandma's son asked. They'll be here soon. They're not guests. They're all family. It's the housekeeper from Songshan City. Grandma's son, I told you before, Lin Yi said. Ah. Grandma's son heard that it was Faubert. She suddenly blushed. She didn't know what to do. Just like that. From her point of view, Lin Yi just said it casually last time. She would forget about it after a few days. She didn't expect Lin Yi to bring it up again. Grandma's son didn't know what to do. She wasn't ready yet. Hee, it's just a meeting. There's no other meaning. Get to know each other first. You're both housekeepers. You need to get to know each other. Lin Yi said. Yeah, Grandma's Sunday Faubert is actually a very good person. Meng Yao also added. In fact, if Faubert and Grandma's son could be together, it would be a good thing. Not only would Faubert not be lonely, but Grandma's son would also have a companion. Plus, they were all family. There wouldn't be any problems. Chapter 1927. Shuhai Pavilion. Meng Yao didn't want to see Faubert stay single with her dad. Her dad's situation was different from Faubert's. Her dad left because her mom left, but Faubert's wife and daughter both died. How pitiful. Then. I'll continue preparing. Granny's son was too embarrassed to say anything else. She turned around and went into the kitchen again. Not long after, the sound of a car came from outside the courtyard. Lin Yi, Meng Yao, and Shuk guessed that it might be Faubert. They quickly went out to greet him, but it wasn't Faubert's car. It was a BMW X5M parked in front of the villa next door. Meng Yao glanced at the BMW X5M in surprise. Ha! Did someone move into this house? Meng Yao asked as she looked at the BMW X5M in surprise. There was an empty villa next to the villa Lin Yi bought. It was the luxuriously decorated villa they bought the other day. Lin Yi, Meng Yao, and Shu only found out after they moved in. However, the villa wasn't sold on the day they bought it. They didn't expect it to be sold so soon. The person in the BMW was probably the owner of the villa. No matter what, since they were out, they couldn't just ignore their new neighbors. After all, they were going to live together in the future. So Meng Yao decided to greet them. It was a matter of politeness. As for whether they could get along in the future, that was a matter of the future. After the BMW X5M turned off, a beautiful girl and a shy boy got out of the car. Lin Yi frowned slightly. These two people were the brother and sister he met at the real estate agency that day. They wanted to rent a house. However, they actually rented a villa. But Lin Yi immediately rejected this idea. How could such a luxuriously decorated villa be rented out casually? After all, decorations would wear out with use. If this house was rented out for a few years, the cost of the decorations would be greatly reduced. The rent wouldn't even cover the cost of the decorations. So the only possibility was that this villa was for sale. These two siblings actually bought a villa. The difference between before and after was a bit too big. Especially when the beautiful girl's eyes flashed when she was at the real estate agency. It was still fresh in Lin Yi's mind. Lin Yi didn't know this pair of siblings back then, so he didn't pay too much attention to the beautiful girl's eyes. But now that they were here and became his neighbors, Lin Yi frowned again. Was it a coincidence or did they have other intentions? But Lin Yi was sure that he had never seen this pair of sisters before. If it was a coincidence, this pair of siblings was already at the real estate agency when he went to the real estate agency. Moreover, Lin Yi chose this real estate agency on the spur of the moment. There were many real estate agencies nearby, not just this one. So it was too far-fetched to say that this pair of siblings was waiting for him there. But if it wasn't a coincidence, what did they mean by buying a villa next to his house? Especially when the beautiful girl glanced at him back then, Lin Yi felt that something was wrong. Of course, maybe that glance was because he brought two beautiful girls into the real estate agency, and they wanted to buy a villa. Or maybe it was because they saw that he bought a villa, so they also bought a villa. They were a pair of rich siblings. In order to keep a low profile, they chose to rent a house. But when they saw their classmate buying a villa, they didn't care anymore. Similarly, they also bought a villa. This was the most reasonable explanation. The girls seemed to have noticed that someone was looking at them and looked over at Lin Yi, Meng Yao, and Yushu. She was a little surprised to see Lin Yi, Meng Yao, and Yushu, but she nodded at them and walked over. When the beautiful girl bought the villa, she only wanted to buy a villa that was closer to her house. She definitely didn't expect these two villas to be neighbors. Only when she moved in today did she realize that they lived next door. What a coincidence. She didn't expect to become neighbors. The beautiful girl said to Lin Yi and the others generously. What a coincidence. Lin Yi said faintly, didn't you want to rent a house that day? Why did you buy a villa? I wanted to rent a house, but when I saw that you bought a villa, I was a little tempted. So I also bought a villa. The beautiful girl said, I just didn't expect to become neighbors. Lin Yi saw that the beautiful girl's surprise didn't seem to be fake. He was a little confused. Could it really be a coincidence? The beautiful girl's surprise was naturally not fake. She was surprised that the two villas were actually neighbors. So that's how it is. You are also students of Donghai Industry University? Lin Yi asked. Yes, my brother and I are both students. But after buying the villa, there was something at home that I didn't report. I took a day off to report tomorrow. Oh, Lin Yi nodded and didn't ask any more. My name is Chu Mengyao. She's Yushu. Donghai Engineering University's Economics Department. Mengyao heard that the siblings were also students of Donghai Engineering University. She immediately had a good impression of them. They were from the same school. It would be easy to get along with them. She could even visit them when she had nothing to do. Ah, you are from the economics department. What a coincidence. My brother is also from the economics department. The beautiful girl said, I'm Han Jingjing. This is my brother, Han Xiaoqiao. I didn't expect them to be from the same department. Han Jingjing asked, You're not from the economics department? Han Jingjing said, No. I'm from the biology department. Han Jingjing said, It's just a small major. I'm afraid you haven't heard of the medicine department. Lin Yi frowned slightly. The medicine department was a bit too much of a coincidence. But after Lin Yi confirmed that the two were not practitioners, he didn't continue to ask. Some things were useless even if he suspected them. He could only wait and see. Meng Yao was a little confused. Why would a girl apply for the medicine department? Lin Yi was also a medicine department. What a coincidence. Ah, you too. Han Jingjing looked at Lin Yi in surprise. You also like to study herbs? Lin Yi nodded. That's great. Let's learn more from each other in the future. I like to study herbs too. Han Jingjing said happily as if she had found a confidant. But before Lin Yi could say anything, a Bentley drove over. It was Faubert's car. Lin Yi nodded at Han Jingjing. After hearing Han Jingjing and her brother's names, he was even more sure that he didn't know these two people. Even when he was on missions before, he had never heard of these two people. Okay, we need to go tidy up the villa too. Han Jingjing said as she opened the trunk of the car and took out some blankets and daily necessities. It seemed like she was going to buy some things. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Target =_blank. Chapter 1928. This was one of the weakest points on the human body, and hitting it would cause a person to faint or even die. What Chi-Chi wanted to do was to hit it in one hit. Pang! A dull sound rang out, and Chi-Chi actually hit Naipeo's neck. Chi-Chi didn't dare stay long after the hit, and quickly retreated to the side. On the other side, Yu Bing wanted to keep the Zhuang brothers busy, but he realized that they didn't seem to have any intentions of doing anything. Evidently, they were very confident in Naipeo. But, in Lin Yi's eyes, there was a flash of worry. After Chi-Chi hit Naipeo, he didn't seem to be affected at all, as if he wasn't affected at all. In the next moment, Lin Yi suddenly felt a strong wave of qi coming from his palms, rushing into his body and sending him flying. Lin Yi's body landed heavily on the ground, his organs churning, and he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. But as bad as it looked, his injuries weren't that serious. He'd used Naipeo's qi to fly out the moment he sensed that something was amiss. Otherwise, he'd be even more injured if he'd taken the attack head-on. You're not afraid of physical practitioners? Lin Yi wiped the blood from his mouth as he stood up from the snow, sighing. It seemed like his first plan had failed. Naipeo wasn't afraid of physical practitioners at all. You think I only know how to absorb qi from spiritual practitioners? Idiot. Naipeo looked at Lin Yi as if he was looking at an idiot. No wonder you came looking for trouble with me so confidently. You thought you had a trump card to deal with me? You must have eaten too many stupid pills. Who told you that physical practitioners could deal with me? If I were to be defeated by a mere physical practitioner, then I wouldn't even need to show my face anymore. I've underestimated you. Lin Yi said with a self-mocking smile. Ha 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 ha. Lin Yi, to tell you the truth, my mental cultivation method is omnipotent. Not only can it absorb other people's true qi, but it can also transform other people's attacks into true qi when they enter my body, including the attacks of external experts. Do you know how I cultivate? I often injure myself all over so that I can improve my strength. Plus, even poisons don't work on me, I can convert them all into qi. Naipeo said proudly, you haven't learned how to convert energy, have you? All kinds of energy could be converted into each other. Ha 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 ha, let me tell you, in front of me, you are simply too weak. If I were in a novel, I would be the main character, with a halo and a golden finger, while you are just a supporting character for me to trample on. Wahahaha. Lin Yi was shocked, not because Naipeo wasn't afraid of physical practitioners, but because Naipeo's practitioners' arts were very similar to his own art of dragon mastery. Both of them were omnipotent energy conversion arts. The only difference was that Lin Yi's arts could convert the energy in the jade space into other types of energy, but Naipeo's was the opposite. He could convert all the energy in the outside world into his own true qi. Between the two, there was actually a similar effect. Lin Yi didn't think that Naipeo would have this kind of luck, training in such a strong practitioner's arts. Your practitioner's arts are very strong. Both physical and spiritual. So you're saying that even if I don't touch you and attack you with weapons, you can still convert my true qi for your own use? Lin Yi asked. Of course. Naipeo laughed. Today, I'll let you know the truth before you die. I'll tell you the truth, I'm invincible under Earth class, the number one under Earth class. Unless it's an early Earth class physical or spiritual master, they're nothing in front of me. It seems like Pinliang didn't choose the wrong follower after all. You're very strong. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Finding a physical practitioner to deal with you was my first plan, but it seems like it's useless now. Instead of directly touching your body, I will use my weapon to attack you. This is my second plan, but it seems that it has failed again. My third plan was to use poison, but you're not even afraid of poison. You really are invincible. It seems like all three of my plans have failed. Ha 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 ha, I told you, I'm the main character of this story. What are you? You're just an ant, trying to deal with me with a few useless plans. Are you dreaming? Naipeo heard Lin Yi admit defeat and was very pleased, but today, I won't kill you, I'll make sure you lose all your strength again. I'm keeping you alive so that Liang Bro can kill you with his own hands. Hearing that all three of Lin Yi's plans had failed, Yu Bing and Chi Chi's faces turned nervous and disappointed. This Zhang Naipeo was too strong, wasn't he? It was beyond their imaginations. Lin Yi's three plans were all useless against him. Is that so? But I've always felt like I'm the main character, right? Lin Yi suddenly spoke as he reached out with his right palm, slapping towards Naipeo, his chi bursting out of his body as he channeled his practitioner's arts. Ha! You're still trying to act cool in front of me. Naipeo didn't expect Lin Yi to initiate an attack at this point. He even channeled his practitioner's arts. Wasn't he looking to die? Naipeo smiled coldly as he raised his right hand, ready to receive Lin Yi's palm and suck all the chi out of his body. Since you want to be the main character so much, I'll let you be the main character today, but only for one chapter. I'll let you have more screen time, and die a horrible death. Ha! Bang! As he spoke, Lin Yi and Naipeo's palms collided, but the next moment, Naipeo realized that Lin Yi had stopped channeling his practitioner's arts. There was no chi on his palm again. What are you doing? Naipeo paused as he prepared to use his chi to send Lin Yi flying again. But then, Lin Yi's chi surged towards him like a tsunami. Naipeo paused, but started laughing. Ha ha ha, I get it. You want to attack me when I'm not channeling my wasp absorption arts, right? So what if I am? Lin Yi asked. Chapter 1929. Date, October 20th. Chapter 1941. Faubert's wife Lin Yi glanced at the BMW's license plate and model. It was the latest American model this year. It hadn't been released in the country yet, so it had to have been imported not too long ago. The license plate, too, was the latest from East Box. It was obvious that it was a new car. He couldn't tell who the siblings were from the car. However, to be able to afford a villa and an X5M, this pair of siblings must be very rich. Yao, shoo. Faubert got out of the car and smiled when he saw Lin Yi and the others. He hadn't seen them for half a month. Faubert heard that the military training was over, so he rushed over. Faubert, you've been quite energetic recently. It seems like everything in Songshan is going well, Lin Yi smiled. Faubert was no longer depressed. He looked refreshed and energetic. Yeah, Pingshan Industries is on the right track and Mr. Chu has changed his business philosophy. Perhaps Pingshan Industries will welcome a rapid growth. Faubert said, but it's all thanks to Yi. Because Uncle Fu also saw that there were neighbors moving things over there, he didn't say much and didn't say much. Faubert, the food is ready and the people are ready. We're just waiting for you. Meng Yao looked at Faubert mischievously. The people are ready as well. Faubert paused and remembered what Lin Yi said before. He shook his head helplessly. I'm already so old. I don't have those kinds of thoughts anymore. Thank you for your kindness. I've thought about it carefully. I still can't forget my wife, so, although Faubert didn't finish his sentence, Lin Yi and the others understood what Faubert meant. He didn't want to remarry yet, so it was better to let it go for now. Alright, let's just get to know each other as normal friends. You're the housekeeper of Songshan, and Grandma's son is the housekeeper of Dongheng. You'll have more chances to communicate with each other in the future, Lin Yi said. Okay, hee. Even if you didn't mention it, I have long wanted to visit this Miss Sunday. Thank her for taking you in. Faubert said. As they spoke, the four of them walked into the villa. Grandma's son had just placed the last hot dish on the table. Seeing that they had arrived, she immediately greeted them warmly. Mr. Lin, Miss Chu, the guests are here. Dinner is ready. When Faubert heard Grandma's son's words, the smile on his face froze. He raised his head in disbelief and looked at Grandma's Sunday. At that moment, it was as if he had been struck by lightning. He looked at Grandma's son and was so moved that he couldn't speak. Time had changed her nirvana, the wind and frost had aged her appearance, but Faubert recognized the person in front of him at a glance. It was the woman he had been dreaming about, his wife, Sun Luoyue. It's her. She didn't die. She had been in Songshan all this time. Then why didn't she look for him? He was considered a famous person in Songshan. Although he didn't have as much exposure as a celebrity, he would always be accompanying Chu Pingzhan in some of Songshan's business newspapers. Faubert, this is Grandma's son. Lin Yi introduced. He was about to introduce Faubert to Grandma's son when he turned around and saw Faubert's stunned expression. Lin Yi was slightly stunned. Faubert. Faubert, what's wrong? Grandma's son was also a bit confused. What was wrong with this person? Why did he stare at him the moment he entered? Why was he stunned? Although Grandma's son knew that she had dressed up for the past few days and had some charm, she was definitely not a great beauty. How could an old woman move a man's heart? Besides, she also knew Faubert's identity. It could be said that in Pengzhan Industries, Faubert was only below one person but above tens of thousands of people. With this kind of identity, what kind of beauty couldn't he find? Why would he like her? So, although Grandma's son heard Lin Yi's matchmaking, she didn't care at all. Since this person didn't like her, then what did this look mean? However, Grandma's son also knew that this person should be closer than her, Lin Yi, and Chu Mengyao, so she didn't show any dissatisfaction. However, although Grandma's son was confused, she could feel the deep love in Faubert's eyes. This made Grandma's son feel very strange. Could it be that he fell in love with her at first sight? Luo Yu, is that you? Faubert raised his hand nervously. His voice was trembling and his breathing became very rapid. Grandma's son looked at Faubert in confusion. Luo Yu. Who was Luo Yu? Ha! This name seemed a bit familiar. Had she heard of it before? Grandma's son shook her head again. She couldn't remember. Seeing Grandma's son's puzzled gaze, Faubert's heart sank. Although, after so many years, the person in front of him was no longer that young and beautiful girl, but Faubert was sure that she was his wife, Sun Luoyu. This was a feeling of closeness that came from the heart. I'm she. For the first time in many years, Li Fu said his real name, but he didn't care. The people standing around were all his closest people. No one would harm him. Moreover, Lin Yi was the person who saved his life many times. At this moment, Lin Yi also found out that Li Fu's real name was Shi. Li Fu, Shi, it was just two words turned upside down to form a name. Hearing the two words Shi, Grandma's son's face finally showed a slight change, but then, Grandma's son's eyes became blank, as if she was recalling something, but also seemed inexplicable. After a while, she shook her head and said, I seem to have known you before, but I don't remember anything. You know who I am? At this moment, Lin Yi saw Faubert's expression. He could roughly guess who Grandma's son was to Faubert. He just sighed. This world was sometimes very big and sometimes very small. In the same city for so many years, but there was no interaction. But Grandma's son went with them to the East Sea, and they actually met. Life is a drama made up of coincidence and fate. You are Sun Luoyu, my wife. Faubert looked at Grandma's son and said anxiously. Mengyao and Yushu didn't know much about Faubert's background, so they didn't react as fast as Lin Yi. Only at this moment, when Faubert said this, did they look at Faubert and Grandma's son in shock. Grandma's son was Faubert's dead wife. But Grandma's son was fine, so she didn't die. But looking at Grandma's son, she didn't seem to remember anything. Me? Your wife. Grandma's son's eyes widened in shock. My name is Sun Luoyu. Chapter 1930. Grandma's son didn't think that Faubert would lie to her, because this kind of trick was used by young men to pick up girls. At their age, wasn't it ridiculous to use this kind of trick? And with Faubert's identity, there was no need for him to make up this kind of lie. // that's right. Faubert nodded and said, there is a mole under your right armpit, and on your left calf, there is a 10-centimeter long scar. Oh. Although Grandma's son knew that Faubert didn't seem to be lying, but at this time, when she heard Faubert say the characteristics of her body, she was still very surprised. Could it be that what he said was true? Was she really his wife? Naturally, Grandma's son knew about the mole under her armpit, but she didn't know where the scar on her calf came from. She couldn't remember it at all, but Grandma's son always wore long clothes and pants, so it was impossible for her to expose these two places. Even Meng Yao and Yushu, who lived with her, didn't know about it, so how could Uncle Fu know? Sure enough, it's really you. Although Faubert was confident before, at this moment, seeing Grandma's son's expression, Faubert's heart relaxed. It was her, no mistake, his wife. For a moment, Faubert was filled with emotions, and tears flowed down his old face. How many years had it been? How many times had he seen her in his dreams? Although she was younger and more beautiful than she was now, those were all illusions. When he woke up from the dream, it was all in vain. Although the current Grandma's son was no longer youthful and beautiful, it was real in front of him. And what Faubert cared about was not her beauty, but this feeling. Even if she was disfigured, crippled, or even turned into a vegetable, Faubert would still be by her side, until the end of time. I'm your wife. How come I don't remember? Grandma's son looked at Faubert's excited look, and it didn't seem fake at all. But she had no memory at all, she only vaguely remembered that there seemed to be such a person in the depths of her memory. Yes. Faubert nodded heavily. Uncle Fu, Grandma's son, I don't think we should just stand here. Let's eat something and talk. Lin Yi sighed. It seemed like things were getting a bit awkward. It wasn't as simple as he thought. By a freak combination of factors, he wanted to find an old partner for Faubert, but he found his first wife instead. But Grandma's son had lost her memory. However, Lin Yi could feel it clearly. Grandma's son was not a cultivator, but according to Faubert, she should also be a cultivator. No. Sun Jingyi was also a cultivator, but the Sun family's internal energy cultivation method was very strange. It was a supplementary cultivation method, and it had nothing to do with strength. It was impossible to see through one's strength. However, on Sun Jingyi's body, if he didn't look carefully, Lin Yi could still feel the fluctuations of qi. When he was a golden class, this feeling was almost non-existent, but after he reached the mystic class or even the earth class, he could still find some characteristics of a cultivator on Sun Jingyi's body. But these characteristics, on Grandma's Sunday, not a single one. If it wasn't for Faubert being so sure that this person in front of him was his former wife, Lin Yi couldn't believe it. This person was the Sun family's genius who could help Faubert recover his qi and heal his injuries. Yes, yes. Look at me, I'm so excited. Faubert was a little apologetic, everyone hasn't eaten yet, right? Let's eat together and talk. Faubert naturally sat together with Grandma's Sunday. Mingyao's heart was full of emotions, but Yushu was curiously looking at Faubert and Grandma's Sunday. Lin Yi had doubts in his heart, but he didn't ask. After sitting down, Faubert couldn't wait to put a mouthful of food into his mouth, but after eating, he said, "Not bad, this is the taste. How many years has it been? I've always missed this taste, Luo-een, I finally see you again." Grandma's son also saw the deep love and longing in Faubert's eyes, but she really couldn't remember at all. In her memory, although she had a husband and a daughter, she didn't know where they went. Foo. Am I really your wife? What exactly happened to us? Grandma's son didn't think that Faubert was lying to her. She was just a scavenger before she became Lin Yi and Mingyao's housekeeper. With this identity, she was definitely not good enough for Faubert. Even now, she felt that there was a gap between the two of them. Plus, she was an old woman now, not beautiful at all. Faubert's love came from his heart, and he didn't want anything from her. So in her heart, Grandma's son believed Faubert's words. While sighing that it was really a coincidence, she was also a little troubled. She couldn't remember anything. Faubert hesitated, but he didn't continue. "Let's eat first, I'll tell you after we eat. I don't want to ruin everyone's mood. What happened back then was a tragedy." Now that the family was sitting around the table, it was time to eat happily. Why talk about the sad past? Besides, now that he had found his wife, there was no need to talk about those sad things. The only regret was that his daughter was missing. She was so young, she was probably killed by the enemy. And his own master, although he was a sky-class master, how could the enemy let him go? In order to protect himself, he might have died under the enemy's encirclement. "Yeah, let's eat first." Lin Yi knew about Faubert's background. He knew that if he said it now, he was afraid that everyone wouldn't be able to eat, so he quickly said, "Faubert, you met Grandma's son again. It's the will of the heavens, it's a happy occasion, let's drink together and celebrate." "Okay." Although Faubert thought about his daughter and master, to be able to find his wife was already a blessing in disguise. It was indeed a happy occasion, so he immediately nodded and agreed. This meal, the atmosphere was very strange. Faubert kept putting food into Grandma's son's bowl, but this meal was cooked by Grandma's son, Lin Yi. Chu Mengyao and Yushu wanted to say something, but they didn't know what to say. This was a matter between Faubert and Grandma's son, they couldn't say anything. On the other hand, although Faubert looked very happy and excited, he didn't know how to say some words to Grandma's son, he didn't know where to start. Although Grandma's son was lucky to escape from the massacre that year, his daughter, master, were not spared. If he told Grandma's son about it, would she be very sad? To be continued. Vote recommendation, monthly vote. Chapter 1931. Date, October 20th, Chapter 1943, remembered. But these things had to be said. If he didn't say it, Faubert wouldn't be able to make Grandma's son believe that he was her husband. Even if Grandma's son did believe him, he wouldn't be able to hide it from her. Please remember, so Faubert tried to think of a way to express himself in a roundabout way to lessen Grandma's son's sadness. "Faubert, Grandma's son, you guys must have a lot to talk about. How about this, you guys go to the room and talk alone. Yao yao, shoo, and I will watch TV for a while," Lin Yi said. The food was almost finished, and everyone looked like they didn't have much appetite. So Lin Yi suggested. Okay. Faubert had wanted to talk to Grandma's son alone for a long time. If it wasn't in front of everyone, Faubert wouldn't know how to say it. It wasn't that he wanted to hide it from Meng Yao and the others, but there were some things that he didn't know how to say. "Mr. Fu. Come with me to my room," Grandma's son sighed. Grandma's son sighed. What happened today was too strange and she couldn't accept it. However, she could see that Uncle Fu didn't seem to be lying, but she couldn't convince herself to believe him. "Son. Miss Sun, you don't need to call me Mr. Fu. My name is Li Fu now." You can call me Li Fu. Faubert didn't want to reveal his identity. He didn't want his enemies to find out. Okay. Mr. Li Fu. Grandma's son paused. No wonder she felt this name was familiar when Meng Yao sent the money. Li Fu, Su. Wasn't this reversed? Could it be that the name she really occupied a large proportion in his heart? Walking into the room with Faubert, Lin Yi sat on the sofa. Meng Yao and Yushu sat down as well. Although the TV was turned on, all three of them were focused on Faubert. They didn't have the mood to watch TV at all. Yao Yao sis, do you think Grandma's son is Faubert's wife? Yushu asked. It should be. Meng Yao said. I've never seen Faubert lose his composure like that before, and his eyes don't look fake either. There's no reason for him to lie. Oh, that's strange. Why doesn't Grandma's son remember Faubert? Could it be that she also took the forget? G.A. Yushu suddenly realized that Meng Yao was glaring at her with a murderous glare. She quickly shut her mouth. She originally wanted to ask if Grandma's son had also taken the senseless grass, but she suddenly remembered that Lin Yi was beside her. If she said it, then Lin Yi would definitely ask about it, and it would be hard to explain. Moreover, thinking about it carefully, Grandma's son's situation was different from Lin Yi's. She didn't remember anything, not just Faubert. Yeah, Grandma's son might have lost her memories for some reason. Meng Yao quickly followed up on Yushu's words. Forgot some things. Lin Yi frowned. He felt that he had forgotten some things after going crazy, but he didn't know what it was exactly. It was probably something related to Xiao Xiao, something about the first wife. With that thought, Lin Yi asked. Yao Yao, I seem to have forgotten some things as well. It's about my first wife. Who is she? Meng Yao was about to explode. She wanted nothing more than to kick Yushu into outer space. What the hell was this girl talking about? Wasn't she just waiting for Lin Yi to ask her about it? Wasn't she just waiting for Lin Yi to ask questions? But she couldn't blame Shu in front of Lin Yi. Lin Yi would be even more suspicious if she did. So Meng Yao only glared at Shu before turning to Lin Yi and acting surprised. You don't remember the first wife? I don't. What's going on? Lin Yi asked. It's like this. Yushu quickly told Lin Yi about Xiao Xiao's idea. One had to admit that Shu was quite eloquent. Lin Yi believed her after her vivid description. So you're saying that I didn't like Xiao Xiao, that's why I took her in as a small wife, and she agreed to let me find a first wife? Lin Yi thought about it. He and Xiao Xiao didn't really have a good relationship. The girl was always messing with him, and he'd messed with her a couple of times. He only got together with her because he heard that she was sick. Then, what Yushu said was possible. And with Xiao Xiao's personality, she was always encouraging him to play with her, so what she said was true. So he didn't have a first wife, and he was just looking for one. If that was the case, then it made sense. But why did he feel like it wasn't complete yet? That's right, that's it. Yushu said. The truth is, Yao Yao and I didn't know that Xiao Xiao had a terminal illness, so we kept pushing her aside. I said that Yao Yao and I could play 3P with you, and Xiao Xiao didn't like it, so she wanted you to find a first wife to play 3P with us as well. Meng Yao didn't know what to say, but she let Yushu continue. After all, Yushu's story made sense, and Meng Yao didn't know what to say. And then Lin Yi nodded. What Yushu said seemed to be in his memories, and something like that did happen before, so Lin Yi didn't suspect anything. But what Lin Yi didn't know was that Yushu was just putting the blame on Xiao Xiao for what happened to Tang Yun, and that it was Tang Yun who got Xiao Xiao to go against her and Yao Yao, not Xiao Xiao who wanted a first wife. But with Yushu twisting it like this, Lin Yi felt that it really was the case. And then. And then I looked for one, but before I could find one, Xiao Xiao and I got back together, and we became a prankster duo, and that was it. Yushu said. I see. Lin Yi nodded. I lost control and forgot some things, but now that you reminded me, I remember some things. It's not clear, but at least I know what's going on. Yeah, but Xiao Xiao told Yao Yao and me before she left, saying that if you were looking for a first wife, Yao and I should help you check, and that you can't just bring any random woman back. Yushu started making up a story. Chapter 1932. Date, October 20th, Chapter 1944. Can't remember. Oh, I'll tell you guys if I want to. Please keep that in mind. Lin Yi nodded. Alright, let's not talk about that, let's talk about Faubert. Right, Lin Yi, you know about Faubert's background, right? What's going on? Can you tell me and Shu about it? Meng Yao was afraid that Lin Yi would start asking questions again, and so she quickly changed the topic back to Faubert. She was also very curious as to what happened between Faubert and Grandma Sunday. Lin Yi obviously knew about it from his expression at the dinner table. Alright. Lin Yi didn't have anything to do anymore. While Faubert talked to Grandma's son, Lin Yi told Meng Yao and Yushu about Faubert's family. The Miss Face was a little sad when Lin Yi was done, and Shu was silent as well. The two were evidently affected by Faubert's tragedy. Lin Yi didn't interrupt them, and Lin Yi felt the same sadness when he heard Faubert's story. After a while, Meng Yao spoke up. I knew that Faubert had a sad past, but I didn't know it was this bad. Yeah, I didn't think that Faubert's daughter, and his Shifu. Yushu was showing her true self now. Luckily, he found Grandma's son, that's a blessing in disguise. Yeah, as long as they can be together, they can spend the rest of their lives peacefully. Meng Yao nodded. But I don't know how Grandma's son lost her memories, and if she can recover them. Yushu said. Meng Yao was so pissed that she wanted to kick Yushu's chubby boobs to death. What the hell was this about amnesia again? Lin Yi, your medical skills are superb. Do you have a way? Meng Yao changed the topic to Lin Yi's medical skills, not giving Lin Yi much time to think. I'll give it a try. Lin Yi couldn't guarantee anything. He would check it later. Not long after Lin Yi finished speaking, Faubert and Grandma's son pushed open the door and walked out. Lin Yi saw that although Faubert's face was filled with relief, there was also some distress. Grandma's son's face seemed to be filled with sadness and confusion. Faubert, how is it? Meng Yao asked. I told her everything, but she couldn't remember anything. Faubert smiled bitterly. I'm not sure if I'm Mr. Li Fu's wife, because I really don't remember anything. Grandma's son said painfully. I can't remember anything, I have no memory at all, but I know that you guys wouldn't lie to me. Right, Faubert, when you and Grandma's son got married, didn't you have a marriage certificate? Lin Yi suddenly asked. This was the most important piece of evidence. Although these Wuling people didn't really care about the rules of the common world, it was still possible for them to go through the motions. Yes, but we didn't even have time to save our lives when the whole family was annihilated. Where would we get the chance to take those things out? Faubert smiled bitterly. My identity as Li Fu was also registered by Mr. Chu. But there should be a record in the civil office, right? Wouldn't we know when we check? Lin Yi said. If it's registered in another province, I can ask Huaijuan or Lingshan to do it. It should be easier for them. That's right. Faubert's eyes lit up. Luoyue, when we got married, we took a picture too. There must be a record. We'll know when we check. Yeah. Grandma's son believed Faubert's words, but she didn't mind confirming it if there was evidence. Lin Yi didn't waste any time, calling Huaijuan's number and telling him about the situation. Huaijuan agreed without hesitation, since it was a piece of cake for him to investigate a marriage registration. Not long after, Huaijuan sent an email to Lin Yi's phone. It was the record of Sun Luoyue and Xi's marriage. One had to admit that Huaijuan was very efficient. It was already time to get off work, but Huaijuan still got the record in a short amount of time. He passed the phone to Faubert and Grandma's Sunday. Lin Yi said. "It's here. Now, Grandma's son, do you believe me?" "Ah. It's really like this." Grandma's son looked at the record on the phone. A complicated expression appeared on her face. After all, what Faubert said was very sad, but Grandma's son didn't have any memories of it. But now that her identity was confirmed, Grandma's son's heart felt empty. Although she found her husband, her daughter and her husband's master were probably gone. This difference between happiness and sadness made her silent again. "Grandma's son, the dead are long gone. It's been so long, don't think about it. Now that we found Faubert again, isn't it a blessing in disguise? If it wasn't for fate, we might not have met again." Lin Yi said. "Yeah." Grandma's son nodded and sighed. She felt a little better. "So, I was a practitioner, and a member of the noble house Sun." "Of course." Faubert nodded. "But now I..." Grandma's son's eyes showed a trace of confusion again. This feeling of not remembering anything was very depressing. She tried her best to remember the past. If she could remember the past, then she might know some things that Faubert didn't know, and that was the whereabouts of her daughter and master. If she didn't know these things, then it would be fine. But since she knew, Grandma's son was naturally very eager to know the answer. She frowned, as if she was trying hard to remember something, but to no avail. "No, I still can't remember. I don't remember anything. There are some vague impressions, but I don't know what they are." "Grandma's son, are you remembering?" Lin Yi asked. "Yes, if you can remember what happened in the past, maybe you will have some clues about your daughter and master. You can also know a little about your enemy." Grandma's son nodded and said. "Grandma's son, let me help you check it." Lin Yi didn't know what Grandma's son meant. Although he wanted to help, if Grandma's son didn't want to remember the tragic past, then Lin Yi wouldn't interfere. That was because it was not a happy thing for anyone. It would only make them more depressed and sorrowful. But Grandma's son clearly wanted to remember what happened in the past and find some clues, so Lin Yi naturally had to find a way to help. Oh. Chapter 1933. Date, October 20th. Chapter 1945, The Cause of Amnesia, Part 1, Right, Lin Yi, you're a miracle doctor. Faubert was happy when he heard that Lin Yi wanted to help. "Yes, Mr. Lin is a miracle doctor. I had a stroke with crooked mouth and eyes and rheumatism on my leg, but miracle Dr. Lin cured me instantly." Grandma's son was full of confidence when she remembered that Lin Yi also cured her illness. "Ha! I can only check whether it can be cured or not. I'll try my best." When Lin Yi cured Grandma's son's crooked mouth and leg, he didn't check on Grandma's son's other physical conditions. After all, time was limited and Lin Yi's goal was to cure Grandma's son's crooked mouth and leg and then frame Jining Jun. "Okay, what do you need me to do?" Grandma's son asked quickly. "Grandma's son, just sit on the sofa and stretch out your hands, I'll check your pulse." Lin Yi could use his pure energy to check other people's body condition, so Grandma's son didn't need to do anything, just relax. "Okay." Grandma's son nodded and sat next to Lin Yi on the sofa and stretched out her hands. Lin Yi grabbed Grandma's son's meridians and started to check her body condition with his pure energy. However, as soon as he started, his pure energy was blocked. Lin Yi found that most of Grandma Sun's meridians were destroyed and the rest were blocked by blood clots. Although it wasn't as serious as Yang Huaijuan, it was impossible for her to become a practitioner and practice pure energy. This situation was very similar to Faubert's. Faubert's meridians were also destroyed and he couldn't practice spiritual arts. It was the same for Grandma Sunday. In that case, Grandma Sun's crooked mouth and lame leg should not have been caused by a stroke or rheumatism, but by the blockage of her meridians. Although the two were blocked meridians, and the treatment was relatively similar, the cause of the formation was completely different. Lin Yi didn't look at it carefully at the time, so he only cured Grandma Sun's crooked mouth and leg. He thought it was caused by a stroke, but now it seemed that it wasn't. However, this was not a problem for Lin Yi. Lin Yi said to Faubert, my silver needles are in my backpack at school. Go out and find a pharmacy to help me buy another box. Lin Yi could use his true qi to repair the broken meridians, but for the blood clots that had accumulated for many years, he would have to use silver needles to remove them. Because the blood clots were already necrotic, it was impossible to use true qi to remove them. Okay, I'll go now. Faubert quickly stood up and quickly ran out of the villa to buy silver needles. As for Lin Yi, he began to use his true qi to repair Grandma Sun's damaged meridians. Lin Yi was very familiar with repairing meridians. Grandma Sun didn't know how Lin Yi treated her, but she felt a warm and comfortable feeling throughout her body, as if her whole body was restored to life. Even Meng Yao and Yushu noticed the changes in Grandma Sun, because Grandma Sun's face was changing at a speed visible to the naked eye. The wrinkles from before were gone, and what replaced it was a smooth face. Grandma Sun seemed to be a few years younger in just a short period of time. Regarding this change, Lin Yi didn't find it strange. Grandma Sun's meridians were blocked, and naturally it had a serious impact on the metabolism of the human body. After repairing, it was normal for her to look radiant, just like when Faubert's meridians were repaired by Lin Yi. He also seemed to be a few years younger. It was just helping Grandma Sun to repair her meridians, not increasing her strength, so Lin Yi was very familiar with it. Now that Lin Yi had practiced the second stage of the art of dragon mastery, it was a piece of cake for him to practice the first stage of the art of dragon mastery. His speed was also a lot faster than before, so very quickly, Grandma Sun's damaged meridians were repaired by Lin Yi. Of course, Lin Yi didn't touch Grandma Sun's head yet. From Lin Yi's point of view, since Grandma Sun had lost her memory, then her head must have suffered some degree of injury, and the structure of the head was one of the most complicated parts of the human body, so Lin Yi had to wait for Faubert to buy the silver needles before he went to check and treat her. Very quickly, Faubert ran back. He didn't drive, he ran completely on foot. Although the pharmacy wasn't too far from the district, it was still 2 kilometers from the villa area. Plus, Faubert wasn't familiar with the road. To be able to come back in such a short time, it was obvious that he ran like crazy. He was very concerned about Grandma Sun's condition. Seeing Faubert sweating, Grandma Sun felt a burst of warmth in her heart. This man, it seemed like he loved her very much. Otherwise, as a practitioner, no matter how fast he ran, he wouldn't sweat so much. This sweat was obviously from anxiety. Little E, I don't have any silver needles, these are ordinary silver-coated needles, do you think they'll work? Faubert took out a set of silver needles and placed it on the coffee table in front of Lin Yi, and said, if it doesn't work, I'll drive to a big pharmacy to buy more. Nowadays, there were fewer and fewer people who bought this kind of acupuncture equipment. The price of silver needles was very expensive, normal pharmacies wouldn't buy them. Silver-coated needles were already very good, but in Lin Yi's eyes, this thing was just a tool. The key was the use of qi, so the material didn't matter. Okay, I'll take this. Lin Yi nodded, opened the needle box, took out a few silver needles, and casually inserted them into Grandma's son's body, but everyone present knew that it wasn't casual, but Lin Yi's technique was too brilliant, it had reached the level of flowing water. With the improvement of his strength, the use of silver needles with qi, Lin Yi didn't have the initial feeling of difficulty. When he was treating Lu Zhenhu, Lin Yi would be very tired after a set of acupuncture, but now, that feeling didn't exist anymore. Grandma's son, don't think about anything now, I'll help you check the injury on your head. Lin Yi said. Okay. Grandma's son quickly closed her eyes, not daring to think about anything else. And Lin Yi began to use qi to carefully check the condition of Grandma's son's head, but as he probed deeper, Lin Yi let out a surprised cry, huh? Hearing Lin Yi's exclamation, Falbert's face was slightly surprised, but he didn't dare to ask anything. He didn't know what happened to Lin Yi, so he could only carefully guard the side, waiting for Lin Yi's orders. The condition of Grandma's son's head made Lin Yi feel very strange. It can be said that Grandma's son's head was not injured. It was not like what Lin Yi thought. There was a blood clot pressing on the nerves or blocking the meridians, causing amnesia. Chapter 1934. Date, October 20th. Chapter 1946, The Cause of Amnesia, Part 2. Instead, in Grandma's son's head, there was a strange ball of qi that was wrapping around a part of Grandma's son's brain. This was the first time Lin Yi had seen something like this. Could it be that the qi had affected Grandma's son's memory? However, under Lin Yi's investigation, although the qi was strange, it didn't seem to have any evil intentions. It didn't seem like it was purposely set up by a master, but it seemed to have naturally appeared. It was very comfortable in Grandma's son's head, and there wasn't a single trace of repulsion. However, without being completely sure, Lin Yi didn't dare to touch the qi. After all, it was quite difficult for Lin Yi to force the fire qi out of Grandma's son's head. Using the same method to force the qi out of Grandma's son's head would be quite difficult. Moreover, the qi wasn't in Lin Yi's body, it was in Grandma's son's body. This could lead to unpredictable dangers. Grandma's son, there is a ball of qi in your head. It seems that it is wrapping around a part of your memory, but this situation is very strange. This is the first time I've seen something like this, so I need to think about it and do some research. Lin Yi said, I'll clear the blood in your body today. Okay. Grandma's son agreed without hesitation. On the other hand, Falbert's face turned pale. He knew Lin Yi's methods. If even Lin Yi said it was difficult, then it must be very difficult. However, Falbert didn't say much. He could only hope that Lin Yi could find a good way. Clearing the blood in Grandma's son's body was much easier. After Lin Yi finished the acupuncture, he began to infuse qi into the needles to break the blood in Grandma's son's meridians. This way, the blood could flow out through the needles. Sure enough, after half an hour, every needle on Grandma's son's body was wrapped in a layer of black substance. It was obviously the poison in her body. Even though Falbert and Grandma's son knew that Lin Yi was a miracle doctor, they were amazed by the situation. Silver needle detoxification. Shield bro is amazing. Yushu looked at the filth on the needle curiously. Shield bro, do I have some kind of poison in my body? Like fire poison. Maybe you can help me purge it. Shoo, don't mess around. Don't disturb Lin Yi. Meng Yao was worried that Yushu would disturb Lin Yi. Don't worry, it's over. Lin Yi pinched the last needle and released it. He smiled at Xiao Shu, you're not sick, why are you queuing? Oh, just in case. Shield bro, can you help her check again? You can take off her clothes. Yushu said. Meng Yao was speechless. Why did you have to come up with so many excuses if you wanted to take off your clothes for Lin Yi? Check my body. You don't have to take off your clothes. Just stretch out your hand and let me see. Lin Yi had no choice but to say, "Okay. Okay." Yushu stretched out her hand. Lin Yi checked Yushu's pulse and shook his head. "Shu, you are very healthy. You're not sick at all." "I see, I don't need to purge the poison," Yushu said disappointedly. "Ha. No need." Lin Yi checked Yushu and turned to look at the silver needles on Grandma's sundae. He felt that it was about time. Lin Yi quickly put away the needles and said, "Grandma's son, you can take a shower. You should be covered in filth." "Ah, okay." Grandma's son also felt that her body was sticky and uncomfortable, so she quickly nodded. "I'll help you rub," Faubert said subconsciously. "This." Grandma's son's face immediately turned red. Although she already knew that Uncle Fu was her husband, she still couldn't accept it for a while. "Ah, sorry, I didn't mean anything else." Faubert also realized that he was a little impatient. He really wanted to help. He didn't have any other thoughts. Grandma's son didn't say anything. She quickly went back to her room to take a shower. "Thank you so much," Uncle Fu said from the bottom of his heart. "Faubert, we're family. But I still don't know what's going on with the qi in Grandma's son's head. I'll go back to my room and ask." Lin Yi said he wanted to ask Zhao Yazi. However, he couldn't just expose this secret. He couldn't just sit on the sofa for a while without making a phone call. Okay. Go and ask," Faubert said quickly. After saying it, he felt that he was too anxious. He suddenly felt a little embarrassed. "I'm a little too anxious, it's nothing. I'll go and call now." Lin Yi smiled. He understood Faubert's feelings. Back in the room, Lin Yi didn't delay. He went directly into the jade space and said to Zhao Yazi, "Zhao Lao, I encountered a strange phenomenon today." Lin Yi told Zhao Yazi about Grandma's son's situation. "Oh. There's qi in her mind, but this qi doesn't have any evil intentions. And she lost her memory." After listening to Lin Yi's words, Zhao Yazi repeated Lin Yi's words. Then he said, "Your situation, although I haven't encountered it before, I can make some guesses." "What guess?" Lin Yi asked quickly. "As you said, she was a cultivator before she was injured and lost her memory. Then, that qi is very likely to be produced by her." Zhao Yazi said. "Produced by herself? What does that mean?" "That is to say, Grandma's son lost her memory?" Lin Yi asked curiously. "You can say that." Zhao Yazi said, "This is a cultivator's instinct. Under certain circumstances, the body's potential is stimulated and the memory in the mind is wrapped with qi." Wrapping memory with qi. Why would she do that? Lin Yi was even more puzzled. There are two possibilities. The first is that when she encounters some kind of danger and her life is in danger, there is a piece of memory that she is reluctant to part with before she dies. This piece of memory will be wrapped by the true qi that stimulates her body's potential. This is the so-called magical reincarnation with memories. In my memory, a friend of mine who is a science geek once did research on reincarnation. This situation does not necessarily apply to cultivators. Even ordinary people may stimulate their potential at the last moment of their lives and wrap their precious memories in the stimulated true qi. Then, after they die, this set of memories wrapped in true qi will exist in the form of free electric waves. Chapter 1935. Date, October 20th. Chap. 1947 is thoughtful. If someone's brainwave vibration frequency is similar to the vibration frequency of this memory, then it is possible that this brainwave will be attached to this person. This is also when some people suddenly discover that they have a lot of knowledge that they didn't know before, or the brainwave of this memory is strong enough to replace the original owner's thoughts. This is the legendary possession. Of course, this brainwave can also travel back to the past or to another world. This is the so-called rebirth and transmigration. Zhao Yazi said. 7 by 24 hours of continuous updates of pure TXT handwritten novels, ugh. Elder Zhao, I don't want to transmigrate yet, and I don't want to be reborn. Can you talk about the second possibility first? Lin Yi smiled bitterly. There really were scientists who wanted to research reincarnation. Then this scientist must be a great person. I'm just saying. It's impossible for you to transmigrate and be reborn. Do you think it's that easy? Even my scientist friend hasn't found a specific method to do it. Zhao Lao shook his head and said, the second possibility I'm talking about is that her family was destroyed. This is a sad past. She couldn't believe what happened in front of her, and she didn't want to believe it. So she wrapped this sad memory with her Jinqi, causing her to lose her memory. Obviously, this is the second possibility. Zhao Yazi said, and this possibility is quite common. It's not just her, other ordinary people will also have similar situations. This is commonly known as memory sealing. It's a person forcing themselves to forget a certain part of their memory, so, in other words, the Jinqi in Grandma Sun's head was produced by her. Lin Yi asked. 7 by 24 hours of continuous updates of pure TXT handwritten novels, I'm not sure about this, but since your Art of Dragon Mastery can convert Jinqi into universal Jinqi, you just need to let her produce a bit of Jinqi and compare it with the Jinqi in her head. Zhao Yazi said. The key is that she lost her memory. She doesn't remember practicing at all. Although her meridians are repaired, she doesn't remember the mantra. It's impossible for me to help her recover her strength, Lin Yi smiled bitterly. I see. Then there's nothing I can do. Ask Li Fu if he knows, or if anyone else knows. Zhao Yazi shook his head and said helplessly. Okay, I'll go ask. Lin Yi nodded and walked out of the jade space, quickly returning to the living room. How is it? Faubert saw that Lin Yi came out so quickly and his heart sank. Was there no news? I asked, it might be like this. As he spoke, Lin Yi told Faubert about the second possibility that Zhao Yazi had mentioned. It seemed that this possibility was more likely. Oh. So you mean that Luo Yin sealed her memory? Faubert was surprised. Then, as long as we remove the Jinqi from her head, we can recover her memory. In theory, yes, but we're not sure if the Jinqi in Grandma Sun's head was generated by herself. Although it doesn't seem to have any bad intentions, there's always a chance. If something happens when we remove the Jinqi, the consequences will be unimaginable. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. If there really was a problem with the Jinqi, it could even explode. If Grandma Sun's head exploded, even if Lin Yi was the reincarnation of Zhang Liju, he wouldn't be able to do anything. How do we determine it? Uncle Fu was startled and asked in a somewhat puzzled manner. Grandma Sun's practitioner's mantra, do you have it? If you do, you can try to let her practice it again. If the Jinqi is the same as the one in her head, then I can confirm it. We can try to guide her to remove it, or when she reaches a certain level, she can refine the Jinqi on her own. Lin Yi said. Practitioner's mantra. Faubert smiled bitterly and said helplessly, I did have it before, but I didn't bring it with me when I left. Normal people can't practice House Sun's mantra, so I didn't purposely memorize it. House Sun. Does that mean that the practitioner's arts are the same as Grandma's son's? Lin Yi's eyes suddenly lit up and asked. Yes, you mean. Faubert could more or less guess what Lin Yi meant. Sun Jingyi. Lin Yi nodded and said, she also practices House Sun's mantra. I just need to ask her for the mantra. Well, there's no need to go through so much trouble. I'll just check what her Jin Qi is like. That's great. Faubert heard that he found a way and was very happy, but his face suddenly tightened and said, oh right, little Yi, don't tell anyone from House Sun that you found Sun Luoyue, oh? Lin Yi was slightly stunned, but he quickly figured out Faubert's concerns. Faubert, you're afraid that your enemies will get the news and come looking for you? That's right. Faubert nodded and said, some things have to be guarded against. Although House Sun won't harm Luoyue, if the news is leaked, it won't be worth it. Okay, I won't say it. Lin Yi said. While they were talking, Grandma's son had finished her bath and walked out of the room. But at this moment, Grandma's son's skin, temperament, and appearance all had a qualitative change. Grandma's son's skin became fairer and more lustrous. The wrinkles on her face disappeared. If she was an old woman before, now she was a beautiful young woman. This change made Faubert surprised and happy. Although he wouldn't mind what Grandma's son looked like, who didn't want their wife to be prettier? Faubert knew that this was all thanks to Lin Yi. Grandma's son was also a practitioner, so after her meridians were opened, she would naturally look younger. This was a very normal thing. That's amazing. Yushu said in surprise, I didn't expect Grandma's son to be such a beauty. I can't call her Grandma's son anymore, I have to call her Aunt's son. Grandma's son obviously noticed the changes in herself. She was surprised and happy. Before, although Faubert showed his love, Grandma's son felt that she was too old compared to him. But after Lin Yi treated her, her body changed drastically. You can call me whatever you want. I'm already used to it. Grandma's son smiled and said, I didn't expect Mr. Lin to be so powerful. Lin Yi, can practitioners not age? Meng Yao asked thoughtfully, Sheshu. Chapter 1936. Date, October 20th. Chapter 1948, Speechless, not bad. Golden class masters can extend their lifespan, Mystic class masters can slow down the aging process, Earth class masters can slow down the aging process, and Sky class masters can maintain their youthful appearance forever. Lin Yi said, the moment you break through to Sky class, your appearance will never change again. What happens after Sky class? Yushu suddenly asked. Please remember, I don't know. Lin Yi shook his head. Meng Yao nodded thoughtfully. So, Tang Yun and Xiao Xiao wouldn't age at all. Meng Yao looked at Lin Yi and suddenly had the urge to become a practitioner. She wanted to become a Sky class master too. But, she also knew that some things could only be found by chance. It wasn't something she could get just because she wanted to, otherwise everyone would be a practitioner. Let's stop here for today's treatment. Tomorrow I'll contact Sun Jingyi and check on her qi, then check on Grandma's son's qi. Lin Yi said, Faubert, it's getting late. You and Grandma's son should rest early too. Meng Yao and Yushu went upstairs, and Lin Yi went back to his room, leaving only Faubert and Grandma's son in the living room. Faubert felt a little awkward. I'll stay in the guest room. No need, since we are husband and wife, let's stay together. You can also tell me about the past. Grandma's son hesitated and said shyly. Okay. Faubert wasn't in a hurry to do anything, but he was very excited about Grandma's son's acceptance. He quickly nodded happily. Seeing Faubert act like a child, Grandma's son shook her head helplessly, but at the same time, she felt warm in her heart. The next morning, Faubert and Grandma's son woke up early with a light smile on their faces. Although Grandma's son hadn't recovered her memories yet, it was obvious that she had accepted Faubert. HNHN // the two were busy preparing breakfast in the kitchen, and Lin Yi, Meng Yao, and Yushu smiled as they watched them. Faubert is so happy, it's the first time I've seen him so happy. Yushu's impression of Li Fu was that he was a serious man, not a single hair out of place. Even when he'd been staying in the villa and preparing breakfast for them in the mornings, he'd never looked this serious. He'd never smiled like this before. Uncle Fu found his wife, but where's my mom? Mingyao's eyes were filled with a sense of loss and loss. Yao Yao, does Uncle Chu not know about your mom? Lin Yi asked. Daddy. He knows, but he won't tell me. He said I'm still young, some things are better left unknown. Meng Yao shook her head. Lin Yi paused. Could there be some sort of secret behind all this? But since Pingzhan didn't want to talk about it, he didn't say much. Every family had their own, maybe something unexpected happened. After breakfast, Lin Yi, Meng Yao, and Yushu left the villa, ready to drive to school. Coincidentally, the siblings from the villa next door came out as well, obviously going to school as well. What a coincidence, you guys are going to school too. Han Jingjing greeted Lin Yi and the others. Yeah, you guys are going too. Lin Yi nodded. Lin Yi was very indifferent to people he wasn't familiar with, especially when Han Jingjing's background made Lin Yi suspicious, so naturally, he didn't have a good tone. I see, why don't we get a ride with you guys? Han Jingjing suddenly said, my brother and I don't know where the buildings for economics and biology are, you guys are from those two departments, sure, let's go together then. Meng Yao answered before Lin Yi could even reply. As far as she was concerned, they were neighbors and classmates, and they were in the same profession. It was only natural for her to help out if she could. It wasn't a big deal. Lin Yi didn't want to be too close to them, and wanted them to follow behind, but Lin Yi couldn't say anything since the miss had already agreed. Thank you so much. Han Jingjing and her brother got in the car and sat in the back with Meng Yao, while Yushu sat in the front passenger seat. Lin Yi started the car and drove to school. It wasn't far from here, so they arrived in no time. After getting out of the car, Meng Yao and Yushu brought Han Jingjing's brother to the economics department, leaving Lin Yi and Han Jingjing alone. Lin Yi locked the car and walked to the biology department without a word. Wait for me. Han Jingjing saw that Lin Yi was walking very fast, and only caught up after 2 steps. Can you introduce me to the medicine department? There's nothing much to introduce. You don't know what you're applying for. Lin Yi said faintly. Han Jingjing pouted, feeling wronged. It's just a hobby of mine, but what rules are there? How many people are in the class? I don't even know that. Oh, there's a student rule in there after you get the textbook. You'll know the rules once you read it. As for how many people are in the class, you'll know. Lin Yi said. Han Jingjing wasn't expecting Lin Yi to brush her off like this. She pouted and followed behind Lin Yi, not too happy. Lin Yi was a little surprised at Han Jingjing's aggrieved face. Could it really be a coincidence? Judging from Han Jingjing's expression, a girl who showed her emotions on her face shouldn't have too many tricks up her sleeves. Was he thinking too much? But they hadn't walked far when Lin Yi heard Han Jingjing mumbling behind him. Ignore me, I'll kick you to death, I'll kick. Lin Yi was sweating. Wasn't this girl's temper a little too bad? She'd kick him to death if he ignored her, and Lin Yi didn't even get to hear more before he heard a scream. He turned to see Han Jingjing kicking a wooden stump, not expecting it to be so sturdy. Han Jingjing lost her balance and fell backwards, hitting her head on the ground with a thud. Lin Yi's eyes widened in shock. This girl. Wasn't she a little too fierce? Falling backwards after kicking a wooden stump. Are you all right? Lin Yi walked over helplessly and asked, but he saw Han Jingjing biting her lip. Tears were swirling in her eyes as if they were about to flow out, and her hand was covering the back of her head. She was as pitiful as she could be. I don't need you to care about me even if I'm dead. Woo-woo. Han Jingjing suddenly cried, making Lin Yi speechless for a while. Did she change her face just like that? She wanted to kick me to death just now, and now she doesn't need to care. Target =_blank. You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.